You probably watched him on episode 6 and thought, wow, what a story, but he hasn't finished. And he is coming back for the sequel.
Yeah, Nigel Benn bought him a punch bag. He even had like a thing around it so that you couldn't go next to it. And then a friend of Tony's at the time smashed the hell out of it with an iron bar.
Can you say which friend it was?
Yeah, CARLTON LEACH. Now, him and Tony for that, big time for that. The guys that he killed, he dumped in Pitsy Tip.
As you do.
2-3 weeks later, he was pulled up, opened the boot of his car, and his girlfriend was in there dead. She's been dead in there for about a week or so. So Tony got hit in the face with the radio and split his eye open. He rung around trying to get everybody to help him. He never went to CARLTON. So I said to him, oh, if you talk to me like that, I'm going to tie you to my punch bag. When Tony had died, CARLTON turned up and took all the money Tony was owed. Everywhere was closed off. The roads, there was army everywhere. Then the next I heard, a flying saucer landed in the army base.
There was a famous story in Essex. It was in Southend. About the werewolf. Oh!
But before he died, I met him and he said, come and do the podcast. You got to do the podcast.
Welcome back to season 3 of the Criminal Connection podcast. I want to say a massive thank you to all our season 3 sponsors. We love you. Big thanks to our sponsor, IME. This global tech outfit ain't messing about. They've got these slick video interviews that have you connecting like there's no tomorrow. Whether you're running a business, running the streets, or doing your own thing. Perfect for those in marketing, recruitment, admissions, and even for auditions. And their platform, smooth as silk, designed with you lot in mind. IME's the ticket to making those connections count. A big thanks to Wildcrest Events for sponsoring the show. From adrenaline pumping sporting events to chart topping sensations, Wildcrest Events have them all. Make sure you drop them a line down below. And if you put in CCP5 off, you will get a 5% discount. Now that's a proper good deal. I want to say a massive shout out to our sponsors, VIP Security Services. VIP Security Services have been running for 35 years. They offer security solutions for our Essex, London, and all the home counties. VIP Security Services will protect you, your home, and your business. Prevention is always better than cure, and you're in safe hands with VIP Security Services. So if you'd like to find out about any of our fabulous sponsors, make sure you check out the links in the description below. Welcome back to the Criminal Connection podcast. My name's Terry Stone, aka the Podfather. Today we're joined by a dear friend and a legend, Mr. Lee Chapman. You probably watched him on episode 6 and thought, wow, what a story, but he hasn't finished. And he is coming back for the sequel. Please put your hands together for Mr. Lee Chapman. Good to see you, Lee.
And you?
Here we are again.
Here we are again.
New studio.
New, yes, very nice.
New year.
New year.
You know, what always makes me laugh when I do a podcast with somebody who's got loads and loads of stories and had loads of experiences, they always leave and I go, what a great podcast. And then we spoke afterwards and you were like, should have spoke about this, should have spoke about that. And then obviously over the other months, a lot of things have happened. And then it was like, look, let's come back and let's do part 2.
Good to do it.
There might not be a trilogy, but who knows? But this is a sequel. So I think, there was lots of comments on our first episode, people sort of remembering you from back in the day. But I'd love to pick up some of the stories we missed.
Yes.
And obviously everybody loves an Essex Boys story.
Yep, they do.
We didn't actually, I didn't ask you this question when we did the first one. But obviously there's all these conspiracy theories. There's all these people saying, somebody did it. And then people coming out saying their dead dad did it. And, he was a suspect, she was a suspect. But I mean, in your mind, Lee, do you think there's any merit to any of the conspiracy theories? Or do you actually think the people that, have been convicted and, the evidence has been, obviously presented. Do you think that they got the right guys?
No, I'd say in my last podcast, I know Holmes and Still. Right. Not like great friends, but they were very respectful. They came in the club a few times. They didn't do it. Right. Definitely they didn't do it.
Right. So do you think Nipperellis's dead dad did it?
No.
Who do you? I mean, out of the conspiracy theories,
and out of the he did it, this guy did it. Do you think there's any truth in any of that, or do you think it's just going to be one of those for you, a mystery? Like, you know,
I don't think they've even touched who killed them really. Right. I think they've thrown loads of stories in and made loads of stuff up just to confuse people. So it's probably really basic. So
yeah, because it was, you know, the fact there was no DNA, the fact that because they didn't actually arrest Still Williams for a few months after, did they? Yeah. So there wouldn't have even been any sort of gunpowder residue on their bodies if they had done it, you know. So.
The main one was the police. They say the police did it. Now, the police would have lost the bodies. They wouldn't have left them there. They would have took them and bye-bye, you never see them again.
Yeah.
You know, there would be no stories, no nothing then.
Yeah.
So, you know.
I would have thought if the police really wanted them, they'd have probably enjoyed, like, what, you know, with the craze where they put them in jail for life and make an example of them. So, you know, I would have thought if that particular narrative had any truth in it, and, you know,
it made a name for themselves by arresting so-called gangsters, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that's quite far from it that the police do something like that. Like I say, they would just go missing.
Right.
I mean, you'd never find them again, and no one would know any difference, you know, except for the family going, where the hell they gone?
Yeah.
That'd be it, wouldn't it? So,
I don't know where they've gone. They've not come home for 3 weeks.
It's dinner's in the oven still, you know. So
no, I just wanted to ask that question because I think we did touch on it on the last one.
Yeah, you did, yes.
But I just wanted to ask you, because obviously every time a podcast goes out, every time it gets talked about, then all the conspiracy theories start, and then everybody starts talking about, you know, he did it, she did it, you know, they did it, they didn't do it. You know,
I don't think they're ever going to find out.
Right, okay.
You know?
So it's still a mystery in your life.
Still a mystery, yeah, still a mystery.
And obviously going back to when you was working on the door, when you was working with Tony Tucker.
Yes.
You know, I didn't know that you was actually a world champion, weren't you? You won all these competitions and
I got picked for. I went to train for the British Judo Club and try and get into the Olympics, but I caused a problem and got battled over, so they dropped me straight away.
Yeah.
So it was my fault, you know. I couldn't blame it. So that's the way that went, you know.
Yeah.
Tony was a judo man as well, but not a lot of people knew that, you know. Yeah. So I think that's why me and him got on, because we used to talk about judo a lot, you know. So
I tried it when I was younger, but I never really got into it, you know. I think it's
well, I started out when I went to the ACC Air Training Corps. So afterwards, the hut that we trained in, it turned into a judo club. So I stayed on and did the judo, and that's how I got into it.
Got it.
So there was a guy.
It made your life easy.
Yeah. I didn't have to go home. I just stayed there, got ready, and started fighting again. But the coach was a guy called Alf Street. He was ex-army. So, but then the club started going down the drain a little bit, so we started doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But now it was Bootsy Suikwa, which is what they do. They give you, I don't know, 10 things to do, and then you'll do them, and they go, that's crap. You're no good at that. I can't do double back kicks and flips like that because you're useless. In the end, they give you probably 5 things that you're good at, and that's all you train.
Did you learn the 1-inch punch?
Oh, no.
Always wanted to do that. Yeah. Bruce Lee made it so cool. He's like, and then the geezer's like flying across the room.
Yeah. With the strings that are behind him. Yeah. So I just trained on like 3-4 things and just mastered them, and it kept me in good step all my life now.
But you did set some world records in the weightlifting. Was it weightlifting
in the strongman
competition?
Yeah. Oh. I got asked. They were doing Children in Need in Ipswich. They said, "Do you fancy doing a record?" So I said, "Yes, okay." And I was thinking. So I did a car pull. What you do, you tie a car length of one car, and then you pull them. And I did 26 cars in a row.
What, all in the line?
All in the line, yeah. Now, I was going out with a girl at the time who was 7 stone wet. She used to do 3 cars, but what she used to do, she used to break in horses for her dad who had race horses. So she was very powerful. She used to pull 3 cars at 7 stone, 8 stone.
I can't imagine seeing you running down the road with 26 cars just like...
Oh, no. You stand there and you pull them.
Oh, right, so it's like tug of war?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Wow, if I ever get asked to do tug of war, I'm going to be ringing you, Lee. You can be on my team. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to bring Lee out. But
and then there was a competition in Basildon, shoulder pressing. Now, Bill Kazmaier was there. He was visiting England doing it. He did the shoulder press record. Wow. And and I was watching it. I was thinking, I've got to have a go at that. But he wouldn't let me do it today. He said, no, you know, it's got to be for me. It's got to be me. I went, okay. So I went home and I first ever tried it. He did 26 presses with a. There's a picture. I'll send you a picture.
Yeah.
26 reps with 150-pound dumbbells.
Wow.
So I thought, I've got to give that a go. I tried it. I did 11. And I thought...
Ain't bad for your first try.
Nah, but the guy who owned the gym said to me, take them home with you. So I took the dumbbells home with you. So then my friend owned a welder shop, opened it up, and he wanted loads of publicity. So he said, do you fancy doing the record? So I did 28 and broke it. And then the brick lift, which was funny because at Suffolk Strongest Man, they did the brick lift and I broke the world record there at the Suffolk Stronger Man with 3 of my other mates. They all broke the record.
Wow.
It was 26 bricks, flatlins, 2.5 pound bricks. So I did 30. Now, it got beat a few years later with a guy called Russ Bradley.
Yeah.
Now, I competed against him and I stood near him and he had little pterodactyl arms. So I don't know how he's going to... What you do, you hold them the length of your arm, take them off the table. The rules are hard. You've got to take them off the table, you've got to turn them, hold them, and you hold them like that. Yeah?
Wow.
So, but I looked at him and I've got to go and stand next to him. I stood next to him. He was like this, and I was thinking, how the hell did he do it? But he beat me records. So.
Wow. But that was only recently. So how long did you hold the world record for?
Oh, no, that went quite quick because once it was popular, everybody wanted to try it,
Got it.
So,
got it.
But then I used to work in my granddad's laundrette, and I was probably about 8 or 9, and he used to get me lifting the assault bags, which were 50 kilos.
Wow.
So he was a very strong man, my granddad. He used to pick them up with like the ends with just one hand and take them all upstairs. So he used to put them on my shoulders.
So you was kind of like doing hod carrying in the laundrette from a young age.
He used to pay me £5.
That was good.
Yeah, that was right.
That's a lot of money, then.
That's a lot of money. And the next door was a hardware shop, and the guy was a arm wrestler. So he was having an opening day, like getting people in there, and he was doing arm wrestling. So I went in there. I didn't win, but I beat quite a few people. And he said to me, "Wow, you've got to do something with your strength." So I ended up getting a chest expander.
I remember that. They stand there. They've all got a 6-pack, and they're going, "You can have a 6-pack too if you buy one of these."
Very good for your shoulders and strength.
Yeah.
I was doing 5 quite easy, which is quite good at them days. Yeah. And then I used to stick springs on them. Now, people who know me remember this. I used to stick springs on them and have 10 springs, and I used to pull them apart.
Wow.
So, and then I used to have this Benn, which bend, never touched weights, just did this. And did that for quite a few years.
So it was more strength training rather than weight training early on. Right.
Yeah. Resistance.
Yeah.
And then, so I got invited to do, I got sponsorship by Cybergenics, which was only 2 of us in England that got sponsorship, American firm. So they used to send me loads of stuff. And then I used to get invited to strongman competitions. So I got myself a manager, which was the guy that got me in the door work. He was a pentathlon back in the day. Wow. So he used to sort out the travelling and all that stuff. And I stayed in his place with the British champion at the time, and he had nothing, no sponsorship, no nothing. And he was like a little bit peed off with me because I had sponsorship, I had free hotels, I got everything I needed. Wow. And he was a British champion at the time.
Wow.
So,
but you was the world champion. You was setting the records, Lee. That's the difference.
I think the car pull's still about, and I think the dumbbell press. I don't really know.
Did anyone beat you on the car?
No.
I mean that sounds crazy.
Yeah, what you do, you have a car, then you tie the next car to it, the length of one car. So we used the Hollywood's car park,
right,
which is quite a big car park. Well, it had to be, didn't it? And then I pulled them, and it was on the Children in Need. Yeah. So made a good lot of money as well.
Well, that was amazing. You did it for charity, and it's also good because it was for the kids. And and the fact that you did, 26 cars. Don't try this at home. I take it. The next day you was aching a little bit.
Oh no, it's fine. No, that was good. That was good. I was young. That's good. Right.
Now, the only reason I've come to that conclusion was because
it's now I'm suffering.
Right.
I've got a ruptured knee. I've got some other few issues, I think it's all through doing crazy stuff when I was younger.
When you were younger,
yeah.
I used to run, but not far, like 3 or 4K.
I used to do hill running. I used to love running up hills.
That's the best for the boxing train. That's the best sprinting up.
I just found it was quicker and not so boring.
Yeah, but somebody said to me, you should try and do a half marathon. And I was like, oh, okay.
I did Basildon's half marathon. I did.
But the difficult thing for me though was I didn't train for it. I was I'm quite fit. I'll do it, and I did it, and I did it in pretty good time. But for a week afterwards, I was in agony. I was like walking around.
Well, I got sponsored by this, what's it called? Like an hardware shop. It was Iaco. Remember Iaco?
Yeah.
They sponsored me to do the half marathon. They paid for this and that, trainers, all this stuff, you know.
Oh, brilliant.
So, yeah, so my friend was working for him and he said, you fancy doing a marathon?
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, right. Then. So finished it, but not great time, you know what I mean? I reckon I messed up most of the pavement running on it. I was about 21 stone, you know. So,
and with obviously Tony Tucker, you know, going back to what you know, you win all these strongman competitions. You're pulling cars. You're setting world records, and obviously you're doing the door. You know, I know we talked a little bit about Tony on the last one, but on the one of the nights, I think you mentioned. There was some kung fu expert or something.
Yes.
What happened?
Well, I was inside and they called me to come to the front door. I've gone to the front door and this guy doing all these roundhouse kicks on Tony.
Well, actually, not having it with him
Yeah,
outside.
having it with him, yeah. The guy was probably 15, 16 stone. He weren't no mug.
Right.
But Tony was like moved away from him, like kept backing off. And he looked at me and just went, he didn't know what to do. He was like, this guy's doing his kung fu stuff and jumping around like that. So I went out and told the guy off.
Right.
Yeah. And that was the end of that. And then
when you say told him off, you mean you give him a firm
I
hand?
don't want to say, I don't want to go like I'm brutey, you know. If I say I told them off, that means
You've educated them to not to be bad anymore.
That's weird. But just say I told them off. But I was in Sainsbury's after the next couple of days later. I was in Sainsbury's, and this woman was getting my stuff and smashing it down on the counter. I'm like, "What's the matter with you?" She went, "You broke my son's ribs," and that was her son. So it was quite a coincidence, really. I thought, what's she doing? Sauce going down. I wouldn't want to fight her, you know. She was really aggressive. But yeah, so that was quite funny for Tony. He just didn't know what to do, you know, just like. So.
And when you was working with Tony, did you see Nigel Benn? Was he around a lot?
Well, I trained with Danny Benn. I trained in Progress House with Danny Benn.
Yeah.
And did a bit of sparring with him. And he was our DJ as well, Nigel Benn was. Lovely guy, you know.
Because I know he used to play at Legends, didn't he? And he was always...
he was kind of doing the circuit. So he did our club a couple of times.
Was he still fighting then? So was he fighting and DJing?
No, he was just doing DJing then, yeah. So. But he used to come in and he used to have this bald-headed guy with him. And he used to come in first and... Nigel's coming in, Nigel's in the building, like this, and I'd be like, what? And then suddenly Nigel would come in like he was coming in the ring, you know? Okay. It was quite amusing, quite funny. So,
with Nigel, I mean, did you ever sort of have any nights out with him or?
No, nothing like that.
He was just sort of around Tony a lot, and
well, yeah, because I looked after Witherspoon when he fought Bruno.
Yeah, I remember that.
I invited Tony to do it, so Tony came along as well, and he got the bug then. So that's Sarah comes. He got into looking after Nigel Benn.
Got it.
Because he started, you know, hanging around him and going, So Nigel Benn used to take him to the fights and stuff. You know. So.
And with Tony, I mean, I know we talked a little bit about him on the last one, but was there any other stories that you wanted to share? Because I know there was Nigel Benn bought him a gift, didn't he?
Yeah, Nigel Benn bought him a punch bag. Right. Well, I didn't buy him a punch bag. It was Nigel Benn's punch bag. He gave it to him as a gift. So in the gym, it had Nigel Benn's punch bag with a picture of Nigel Benn in it. And then,
what did he say to Tony? You got to hit the bag.
No. Tony would not let. No, he made it clear. Nobody hit the bags. You know what I mean? Especially you, Lee. Anyway, but so it was just like a statue there. You know, no one touched it. No one even had like a thing around it so that you couldn't go next to it. You know.
Got it.
Then a friend of Tony's at the time.
Yeah.
Smashed the hell out of it with an iron bar. So it pissed.
Can you say which friend it was?
Yeah, CARLTON LEACH.
Right. Why did he do that?
I don't know why he done it. But what happened was he came in and said, this is the way I deal with things, and smashed it out of it with the dumbbell bar, you know. Right. Not the weights weren't on there, it was just the bar. Right. And he smashed it. Now, him and Tony for that, big time for that.
And when was that? Was that?
Oh, it was in the time, I don't know. It was.
Was it near to when he got murdered, or was it
about in the middle, really?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it would have been.
But they fell out, and I didn't. How do I put it? It's only a rumour to me. They never spoke, and they never see each other for ages. So.
But so when the actual murders happened, CARLTON and him weren't really. weren't really together. They weren't.
I was in Ipswich, so he never mentioned him when I met with Tony because he sometimes brought the wages.
And I suppose if you were like good pals with someone or you were close with somebody, you would obviously say, "I've sorted that thing out. You know, we're mates now. It's all sweet." I mean, it's the sort of thing you say, isn't it?
The thing is, I never see the times I did see Tony. He never even mentioned Carlton, and he never was with him. Right. So, I mean, I'm not going to say things I don't know.
No,
but,
of course.
You know,
but I'm just.
He might have been seeing him. He might have made up. They might have do this, but
right.
I think Tony was pretty vexed about it. You know.
Yeah. Well, I suppose if somebody who you're looking after, who's a good pal of yours, gives you a gift, and then somebody does that to the gift.
Oh yeah. Tony got hurt. Tony went to a nightclub. And these doormen wouldn't let him in, or some argument broke out. I mean, I'm only going on what I heard because I wasn't there.
Where was this? Was this?
This was in London.
Oh, in London.
Tony turned up, jumped the queue. Apparently, I'm only going on what. And then the doorman wouldn't let him in, and then one of the doormen hit him in the face with his radio.
Wow.
So Tony rung round everybody because he wanted them dealt with. Yeah, he came to quite a few people, but everyone kind of turned their back on him and said no, no, no. Then he come to me, and I said no. I said no because it'd been a right shit to these doormen, you know.
I suppose if a doorman takes a liberty, right?
Yeah, no,
it's a different story.
Sorry,
but
he did take a liberty.
But if you walking up and you're like, listen, mate, I'm fucking, and then all of a sudden someone, and it's like you know, if someone comes up to your door and you're the doorman or you're on the door, and they fucking start giving it, you know, and bear in mind, like back then. There wasn't any CCTV, and you know people were quite heavy-handed, weren't they? You know, if you fucked about, the doorman, just like the police, you know, if you fucked about, the police would wrap you up and put you in the back of the car, and you get a beating. And it's the same on the door. You know, people were getting fucking like smashed up. You know, it wasn't people saying, "You've been a naughty boy, come with me. I'm going to restrain you now." Call a police officer. It was literally like you get thrown down some stairs.
By the time the police turn up, by the time the police turn up nowadays, you're their best friend. By the time you've locked them up, held them on the floor, called the police, so you just don't bother now. The thing back in the day is no one would go to the police. So say someone said to you on a fight, or you know, cause a problem, you get in a fight, they end up losing. They never ended up going to the police because they go, oh well, I've had people come back weeks later and shake my hand like, sorry about that, you know, they're nice, proper people. Yeah. But nowadays, they cause a problem. I had a grief the weekend with some guys, and because they didn't get nowhere, they rang up the police.
Wow.
So, I mean, they're the ones that caused the problem, and then because they didn't get nowhere, they call the police. You know, I mean, people today are just crazy, you know.
Right, okay.
So Tony got hit in the face with the radio and split his eye open.
Wow.
So he rung around trying to get everybody to help him. Now, he never went to Carlton. And that was quite a while after. So I don't think they were still friends then.
Yeah. I mean, and I think the club you're talking about, it could have been Legends, because I know he used to go up to the West End. And obviously the doorman in the West End, when I was working in London, you know, they were like proper people, you know, and they were normally connected to somebody. Yeah. And if you fucked about with them and they couldn't deal with it, somebody would come down and say, what's the problem, you know? So,
well, I got taken to London by this, I don't know what he was, like Greek guy. He ran lots of clubs up there. He took me to Madame Jojo's, which was quite a funny thing happened. Yeah. And he took me to Cafe de Paris.
Yeah, Cafe de Paris.
Frank Bruno's, Frank Bruno, sorry. What's his name? One of the boxer's sons used to work there. Bugner, Joe Bugner's son. Yeah. Used to work there. So I met him, lovely guy. But it was funny with Madame Jojo's. We walking in, and he stopped to do shoelaces up, which I thought, oh, well, so I went walking in, it was gay karaoke. There was all these guys in these little leather shorts and all that. And I went busted in there.
Did you say, oh, I've got the wrong outfit on? I'm here to come and get changed.
I had leather thongs on, so I was all right. No. So when I turned around, he's at the door, not gone in yet, laughing his head off, and he done it deliberate. So I've gone in, walking in there, and everyone's just, it was like one of these Western movies where everyone stops and goes, you know. So it was funny. But he took me all around quite a few of the places around London.
Yeah, Madame Jojo's. I remember it. I never went there, but I remember it because you when you walked, I can't remember the road, but there was an NCP car park, and up that road there was a Raymond Review bar, Madame Jojo's. It was all it was like a strip, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was quite a few. By the time you get from Waldorf Street to Soho, you could buy a cow, a horse. You could get a free-titted woman. You could have coke, drugs. But literally 100 metres.
So whatever your...
People that come out the gangways and doorways and go, do you want this, do you want that? By the time you get to the bottom there, you cover all manner of stuff.
So basically, it was like the modern day Harrods for degenerates. So whatever you wanted, if you walked down that strip and you asked...
Have a Christmas list.
I'd like a horse, a free-titted woman, and I want some drugs. Okay, not a problem. Come with me.
Not a problem,
Wow.
You get all manner of things, people asking you stuff, Wow. So,
I mean, Soho, look, Soho now is this sort of kind of trendy, you get like, it's
night time it ain't.
No, but it's a trendy sort of hipster place. And
I worked the Wardour Street, which is the top of the road. Then they turned it into a Stringfellow strip club.
Remember that?
So I got called in there because they were turning it into a nightclub and they wanted some good guys, whatever. So I went there and it didn't work. The dance was like someone dropped a beer mat on the floor and everyone was piling on. You had to take turns to dance because it was such a small dance floor. It's probably about half the size of this. So people wanted to dance, but you weren't allowed to dance near the bars and stuff. So they cut their own throats really. But then they turned it back into a strip club. Which is I was going to go because it weren't my thing, and they paid me really good money and made me head doorman. Right. So I said, okay, I'll stay.
But I think with Soho though. Back, and I'm talking 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. It was, and it has always been like organised crime. It's always been like there's like a dark undercurrent there, I know a few people that have been then recently in the last 6 months. They've sort of come out of one of the clubs or bars, walked up one of the side alleys, and someone's turned them over. So
that happened a lot when I was at Stringfellows. They would take them to brothels. They'd take the drivers, anywhere else to go after. And they go, take them to brothels. And these brothels used to open up overnight. And you'd find yourself naked in the street, drugged out your head with everything missing. Wow. And that happened quite a few times, So
So they take you to, I don't know, flat or something. So this is, where have a drink.
Yeah. And you would just get
then you wake up.
Over.
Yeah.
Your money would be gone and your cards, everything. And we had that quite a few times over the years,
Wow.
We had cars outside, Mercedes, lovely cars, and there was only a few of them that we could trust that would literally take them to a brothel or take them home. Then you had the ones that used to just turn up. They were the ones that we had to keep watching because they were the ones that would take them to brothels.
So you offered a brothel service as part of it?
No. I just give them the cars and it was up to them what they wanted to do. You know what I mean?
Because I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, if you think about it logically, you go into a strip club, and you get drunk,
you get teased,
and you get teased, and you think, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
And then on the way out, it's like, where can we go? And then, obviously the people know that, and I suppose they're easy pickings because they're pissed.
Yeah. We had a few,
and they're probably going to just get in the car pissed, have a drink. Yeah, sure, thanks, mate. And then they wake up naked with no.
We had, I can't remember how many, but probably I can't keep count. We had loads of them that this was happening to. Because they were getting in the wrong cars, or they were literally going down the bottom of the road, getting into a car, and they would go, I know a brothel, I know this, come with me, and end up in a wheelie bin, bollock naked. So, wondering how they're going to tell their wives that, And I mean, that sound, Soho, what a crazy place. And then I suppose if you come back out to Essex, I know you mentioned before you come on the podcast that you worked with a notorious serial killer. Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sorry.
What was that at the same time, like in the 90s when you was round Tony, or was this much later?
Yeah, this was around the same time. I kind of wanted to find loads of places to work. I didn't want to be staying at one place. So by then I'd made a bit of a reputation. And so I was offered loads of clubs, and one of them was called Pink Toothbrush.
I love the name.
Yeah, I know. Well, we got a pub around the back of our club now called the Fighting Cocks. Now, people come up and go to me, excuse me, do you know where the Fighting Cocks are? And I didn't even know the place was there. And I'm like looking at them thinking, what are you asking me, Is this some kind of new club? Can I have a go? Probably not. But anyway, so this guy, big army guy, didn't talk much about the army, but said he was in the army and so on, which I've worked with loads over the years,
What was his name?
I can't remember his name now. Mike.
Oh, right.
Mike, his name was Mike. I only worked with him for about, every other Saturday when he was there. He was kind of like the head doorman in a way.
The reason I was asking was because there was a notorious serial killer, and I think his name was Colin Ireland, and he was in a parachute regiment.
Oh, you might be right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Was it him?
I think it might have been him. Yeah, he was in the army.
Because I remember reading, and for those of you who don't know, Google this.
Yeah.
Because there was a guy called Colin Ireland, and he would pick up gay men, but he wasn't gay, and then he would
sounds so much like him.
But he would drug them.
Yeah.
And then he would do whatever to him and then actually kill him.
Yeah.
It's got to be the same guy. There can't be two, surely.
The Mike I know, he was in the French Foreign Legion. I could tell you a story about him. Absolute fruit loop he was.
Right.
But so I worked with this guy, and we had lots of gays come past. You know, no, he didn't.
Was it a gay club or not?
Because of the name of it, it did have quite a following. You know.
Got it.
So. But he was always polite to them. Like when they come, it makes it sound like they're a bit, but the guys and girls that came in that were.
So basically, you working with this guy.
Yeah.
Obviously, you didn't think, oh, he's a bit nutty. He could be a serial killer. And he was, like you said, he treated everybody with respect. He was very polite to gay men and gay women. And there was no sort of, because normally if somebody has an issue with somebody, or they don't like somebody for whatever reason, you pick it up, don't you?
Yeah.
So
but no, we never give any inkling that he had, how do I put it, aggression against them or he didn't like them.
Right.
But he didn't come to work. And then the rumour got round, everyone started talking. So where's he gone? Oh, he's been done for serial killer. So, what? What they do, the guys that he killed, he dumped in Pitsea Tip. He'd wrapped them up.
As you do.
Why not? That was quite a notorious place for dead bodies.
Tip. Every rubbish tip I've been to, normally there's people wandering about. So, what was he? How did he dispose of them?
You're going back in the years where you used to bung the guy. You know, say you want to get rid of something that you go, it's 50 quid, turn a blind eye. Yeah. I had a mate of mine who had a scrapyard there, and he used to do the same if you didn't want your car anymore. Which I could tell you a funny story about a car. But anyway, so they found the same carpet that he wrapped the dead bodies up in his house.
So how do you know how the police kind of got onto him, or did?
No, I don't really know.
How many people did he kill?
6.
So he actually killed 6 people.
Killed 6 people, yeah.
And that's what we know about, right? Wow.
Yeah.
And that was because when the police raided his house, the carpet that these people that he was murdering and wrapping up in carpet and dumping in the dump was the same carpet that
he had in his apartment, like flat.
Wow.
But I met another one over the years. The guy, I was working at the Star on the docks. It was a real rough place. And the guy, it was his final notice by the police, if you don't sort this out. So he came to me and said, can you come and work there? So I said, yeah, of course I can. And he paid me silly money. Yeah, we're talking ridiculous money at the time, like £500 just for the night. Ridiculous money. So it was a fight on the dance floor. So I broke it up and chucked the guy out. He went, I'm going to come back and kill him. So I went, yeah, well, all right, I've heard that so many times. And then we used to have to keep the door shut. It was that bad. You couldn't leave the door open and let people in. They used to have to knock because it was such a bad place. So
where was this? In
Ipswich.
In Ipswich?
Yeah, Ipswich docks.
Right, wow.
So then the door kind of levered open and the guy was standing with a machete. It was the same guy.
Wow.
So I told him off.
And this was when machetes weren't cool, right? So people didn't used to have machetes.
Oh, this was a rusty old thing, it was. I don't know where he got it from. He must have had it in his car for a while.
What I used to do, and this is a well-known fact, a lot of the yardies, they used to have rusty machetes because then when they chopped you got sepsis, basically. So
same with the baseball bats. You used to have nails in the baseball bats.
Oh, the wooden ones?
Yeah.
Right. So it's not very nice, is it?
Damn cats. But if you were clever
But you didn't
enough,
get chopped with a machete. You managed to get it off him.
Well, now, this is the thing about machetes. If someone hits you with a machete, what's the first thing you do is move out of the way. But with a machete, you don't. You move into the guy. So I moved into the guy, and it went like that and flung off and went over to the wall. So then I told the guy off quite badly.
Welcome to my world.
Yes. So the manager kept the machete. He liked it. He kept it behind the bar. And he needed it for that play. Yeah, sign it, Lee. Yeah. So I laid the geezer outside and just put him up against the railings. By then, there was a couple of my DSs that got wind of this and come storming over. What's going on? You're right, Lee? You're like, yeah, of course I am. Anyway, then About 2-3 weeks later, he was pulled up for whatever damage to his car. He didn't have no lights. I opened the boot of his car and his girlfriend was in there dead. She'd been dead in there for about a week or so. So I had to go to the police station and make a statement. I literally told them, because I thought myself, if they're going to arrest him for murder, I don't want to be dragged in. Why didn't you tell us about his machete? So I went to make a statement.
Yeah.
And then I used to live near the Ipswich football ground. Walking down, this Russian had this girl up by the throat. So I went over and I didn't tell him off, but I nearly told him off. Does that make sense? Yeah. But he took his top off and he wanted to fight me. He was shouting, all this Russian girl. And it's one of the girls that got killed, the boots in Ipswich.
Wow.
Now, the police wanted to know about him because they wanted to, i.e.
Because I remember that. There was there was the people picking them up and then murdering them, weren't there?
Yeah, it was the guy who worked in one of the pallet places, which was not far from Ipswich football ground. So anyway, the police went to know him to eliminate him. Wow. So I had to go there for the machete. I had to go there for the shoot. And then the other one, what was the other one? There was 3 I had to go for. And I got them all mixed up. I was going, can I see Sergeant? Well, no, I used to do with the serial killer. Can I say, no, they used to do with that. Oh. So I had to do 3 statements in one night.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's crazy.
And how did he actually kill his girlfriend, do you know, or not?
No, I think he strangled her.
Wow.
Oh, the other one was, I don't want to say their names. They had this young lad at the bottom of the garden and he slept in the shed because they felt sorry for him. He was homeless. They were quite old. He tied them up and tortured them, killed them.
This was another.
This was the 3rd one I was telling you about. I had to go and make a statement because this guy was in the club and he had tattoos all down the side of his face. He was headbutting the machine. This was
on a separate occasion, right?
Yeah, all this is all in a matter of.
But weeks. This is all the same club. That was
it's
the
all
club.
The
was the
Ipswich. I'd say Ipswich, weren't the club, because the things that happened outside the club had nothing to do with the club.
Got it.
But so he was headbutting the fruit machine. So I told him off for headbutting the fruit machine. Yeah. So then he killed this older couple. So that's the 3rd statement I had to go and make, how I had interact with him.
They must think there's something going on here. Like, Lee knows some pretty fucking crazy people.
Yeah, it was quite, I've got 3 other ones I could tell you, but they're a bit horrible. Right. They all coincide with me as well, which was weird. I could tell you, but they're not very nice.
Go on. Go on. You're on now, Lee. Right. I don't want you ringing me up later saying I should have told you about these other things.
I lived in a bedsit for a little while, yeah, and the guy was stealing my food. So I put a plate up against the thing. He opened the thing, smash, went down there. And I said to him, I won't going to say exactly what I said to him. I said, if you keep stealing my food, I'm going to be really upset with you. Right? With a few Fs and a few...
of course. A few Cs.
So, but he went missing. Couldn't find him. So they broke into his room. He'd had an epileptic fit, wrapped himself up and literally suffocated and died. So the police come and said, listen, you're the last person to speak to him. I said, well, yeah, he was stealing my food, blah, blah, blah. Then I moved to Towlins. Now, 6 o'clock in the morning, this geezer used to play the piano. So I went up and banged on his door, because I'd only got in at 4 o'clock. So, but it wasn't even nice to listen to. It was like, blah, 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 blah. I think he was learning. So I knocked on his door, he opened the door, and I said, if you keep waking me up playing the piano, I'm going to be so sad. Words to that effect, yeah. And he went and shut the door on me. I was sitting watching telly, suddenly banging on my door. There's a fire. So what? So I ran upstairs and I felt his door and it was baking hot. So you can't do nothing, you know. If the door's hot in the places. He'd been smoking. He had loads of books, fell asleep. I set fire to him and he died. Smoke inhalation. So knock on the door. It was the police, yeah? I believe the same copper. So he went, excuse me, you was the last person. Don't I know you? I went, yeah, I was at, and I told him, and he went, oh, okay. Then I moved to Rainham in Essex, and I was on my punch bag, and the guy shouts over, can't you shut the... So I said to him, oh, if you talk to me like that, I'm going to tie you to my punch bag. So he looked at me like that, and he ran inside. I went home. I came home on the Monday, ambulance outside his house.
That is funny though, Lee. That's the sort of thing I would have said to somebody, because it is funny.
Yeah. Well, my punch bag got an injunction out on me. So anyway, I came
This is the world first, the world exclusive. Punch bag gets an injunction against Lee Chapman.
So I came home on the Monday and an ambulance outside his house. He had a heart attack and died. which is sad because he was a nice guy.
And it was the cop would come again. He was like, "You again?"
As I had a little glass arch in my door, and I could see it was a copper. And I thought, crying out loud, don't be the same one. When I opened up, it weren't. It was to do with home safety and all that. And I thought, imagine if that had been the third one.
But what? So, but that was unfortunately he just dropped down dead of a heart attack.
Yeah, just had a heart attack. Yeah.
Right, bloody hell.
Yeah. So.
But it's that thing. If I was that cop, I'd be thinking, too many coincidences here.
Yeah, sounds a bit dodgy.
Is there something you want to tell us?
He did look at me like that, and he was like, you could see him going. His brain was going. I know this guy. So.
Bloody hell. Yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, Ipswich. I mean, maybe you should do a film or a TV show called The Ipswich Diaries.
Well, I had some really beautiful things as well. I got 108 hours community service for a violence offence. I nearly got put away, but the big CID officer came all the way from Ipswich to Snaresbrook and stuck up for me and said, like, this guy's, he's got so many Bravery awards, he's helped us out, blah, blah, blah. So I got 108 hours community service and I worked to tutorial unit, naughty children.
Okay.
Now this was, I loved it, but you can't do it nowadays because it's too much money for people to pay and you need checks and all this stuff. So anyway, I looked after all these young lads. Because I was still into the sports centres, I used to take them to the sports centre and there was one lad who latched onto me. I'm not going to say what he'd done, but he'd done a really bad thing when he was 13 to do with mugging. So anyway, I used to take him around with the weights and all this stuff. One of the boys was unscrewing the window. I said to him, what are you doing? He went, I want to drop it on their heads. Like, they were so blasé about it. We played football and a girl ran on and kicked this guy in the head who fell over. And I went, what are you doing? She went, then another one used to yank her hair out because she didn't want to go to school.
I mean, so these people, I mean, I know that, they
were stopped from ball to ball store.
They were trouble kids, weren't they?
Oh, terrible. Yeah. The ladies at work there didn't seem to want to relate to them or even talk to them. I mean, I don't know, I'm not a teacher, so I used to sit and talk with them. Say, what happened? Oh, one of them came home. Most of them came home and then one of their parents was being killed or dead. Right. And one of the boys who was tortured by his other brothers, they used to burn cigarettes out on him. So they all had a bit of an issue. Yeah. Now, this boy, Jason, his name was, I used to take him around the weights and we had such a good life, a lovely boy, and then years and years later, I was in Palms. Palms on the A127?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in there, and this boy kept looking at me. And I was thinking, what's the matter? My girlfriend at the time went, and he was following us. So I turned around and went, what's the matter? He went, hello, Lee. And I went, like that. And he just chucked his arms around. It was him. And he thanked me, and he said to me, if it weren't for you, God knows where I'd be. And he was about 25 then. He said, I'm a electrician now. I've got a wife, I've got kids. And we kept in touch for a little while, but then we didn't.
Something?
It's a beautiful thing it was because I just stood there and it was really busy, but I didn't hear nobody, I didn't see no one. It was really like a cliche. Yeah. I just looked at him as he walked away and I was like, oh, that was nice. And then the girl who jumped off the bridge, she jumped off this bridge, she was headbutting the wall and I said, what are you doing? I said, man, she ran off and my mate Steve said to me, she jumped over the bridge. I went, well, what? So we were quite close to the bridge that the Orwell ran under. So I ran up there and she was on the ledge. And she was just, and you can see with shopping trolleys, always a shopping trolley, isn't there? So I said to her, don't jump, I'll buy you some chips. I mean, at the time, I thought, even she looked at me and went, what? So I took the belt off, I had a quite big belt. I took the belt off, sledged it over, pulled her out, slammed her down on the floor. By then the police come, they sectioned her. Years and years later, this couple were walking towards me. Really, because she was a Gothic, so you know what Gothics are like. Yeah. She had this lovely dress, really nice. She was smiling at me, going like this. I'm thinking, hello. She came up to me and went, it was her.
Wow.
She'd remarried, and she'd come to thank me years later.
Wow.
She'd give me a cuddle. Her husband gave me a cuddle, and they walked off. And it was another time I thought to myself, oh, wow. Fancy all them years later, you come and thank me.
Thing is, though, I mean, that's the thing, from talking to you, Lee, on a previous podcast and this one, you got a big heart. And I think it's that thing where if people treated you with respect and, followed the rules, you were their best mate. And if you didn't, then like you said, you'd have to have a word with them.
Tell them off. I told quite a few people off over the years.
How many do you reckon? It's got to be in the hundreds.
I used to say to my mates, one day I'll be up an alleyway and they'll all be there.
Thousands,
40 years I've been doing it now. 40 years I've been doing it.
That is a long time, isn't it?
It's a
4
mad
decades.
time, isn't it? Yeah.
And to go through, you know, all those things you see, it, you know, working with a serial killer in the pink toothbrush, you know, being around the Essex Boys, and you know, obviously going back to the Essex Boys stuff, and Carlton. I mean, you know, like you said, you spoke about a few of the things, but did you have any other? Because I think like, you know, when Tony actually obviously, you know, died in that murder. What was in the aftermath? I mean, did you ever have any sort of run-ins with Carlton, or did he?
I had 3 run-ins. I had 3 things with him. First one was his little group of guys that he carried about with him were causing a problem in a club called Chester's, which turned into Waves, but Chester's at the time. So the manager...
Was that in Basildon or Southend?
No, this was in Southend.
Southend.
So he asked me to come and have a word. Like, can you sort something out? But by then, Carlton got word, rung me up. Now, I've got respect for Carlton in a way, because he always, how do I put it, he helped me. I didn't have to build up sweat. So he rang me up and said, Lee, I'll sort it out, mate. I went, okay. And they were gone, no more. Then they caused a problem in Olliers of Romford, these guys. They were Carlton's friends again. So he got on the phone, and one of them, I said to him, look, listen, these guys have got to go. They're being a pain in the eye. Okay, he got on the phone to him. They apologised and they left.
Were they his friends though, or were they, do you think those people putting his name up? Because a lot of people do that, don't they?
No, they were his friends, because he used to have this big guy, 30 stone, and it was one of them. And he was, there was a film about Carlton, and he said anybody who wants to get me, they'll have to get through him. So I knew that he carried him about quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then the last time I saw him was when Tony had died. Carlton turned up and took all the money Tony was owed, because Tony was owed, you know, they paid you 2 months in advance. So, 2 months in arrears. So he came and collected the money. And that was the 3rd time I saw him. We didn't really have much to chat, other than I said to him, these doormen are rubbish that we've got here now. And he went, well, he just kind of like, oh, right. And he left, and that was it. And that was the last time I ever had anything to do with him.
But the money he collected, he didn't give that back to the family, or
I don't know what he'd done with it. I didn't, I didn't ask really. Right. So, but it was quite a bit of money when you think 22 doormen, 2 months. It was, you know, a fair few grand.
Yeah.
So, but he came and collected it and left, and that was it really. Yeah. Never see him again after that.
Right, wow. Going back to Tony, was there any other things that we missed out on the other one?
Well, I worked with Tony. We did demolition work in London. Yeah. So that was quite a funny time, because we had a wonderful time smashing things down, me and him, you know, and Steve Lukey. And I remember it went quiet. And what's going on now? Tony and we're heavy into the old steroids, you know. Yeah. So I thought it's gone quiet.
Did you get involved in the steroids as well?
I did benching for the British bed benching and deadlift, so they test you. So I did take steroids, but if I could be bothered, and I was super strong anyway, you know. I trained with guys that are on steroids, and I was wiping them out. So
because you know, we've never really talked on this podcast about steroids. I know lots of the doormen were taking them, and I know lots of people were taking them to obviously give them a bit of size and a bit of strength.
Well, I did a strongman in Stanton with Jeff Capes. It was for Daily Mail. He had this anyway. They were doing steroids in the toilets in the holiday camp where kids were walking in, and so there was about 12 of us. It went down to about 5. He'd get out, you know, piss off, like, you know, because you shouldn't be doing steroids in there. Tony was quite...
Was that Jeff doing that?
Yeah, Jeff Capes. Yeah.
He actually was telling people off?
Yeah, he told them to clear off doing it here. You know, he came out, he was mad.
Because I remember Jeff, I mean, like, when I was growing up...
I did games with him. And I weren't very good at Island games, you know. So I threw discus for Essex. And javelin, when I used to throw the javelin, I was the only one that had 5 metres missing, because it used to come back to me. I was absolutely crap. Wow. And I used to train with a guy called Keith Hanson, who was a British shot putter, one of the loveliest guys I've ever met. Yeah. And I couldn't touch him for shot put either. So, but discus, I was very good at it. You know, I won the Essex, some won schoolboys. Yeah, I was good at that. So I tried Island Games,
Yeah.
And I've thrown the log, it would come back to me again. I think they liked me. They didn't want to leave me, you know what I mean? Some of the stuff. But what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So the steroids, Tony was quite heavy into it, you know. He got really big, you know. I always noticed his thighs were huge, you know. He just Anyway, I was doing building work. I was knocking upstairs up. Oh, what was he doing? And him and Steve Lukey had their head on each other, fast asleep. Because of the steroids made you, what to do, steroids don't make you angry, they make you tired. So when you're tired, you're peeved off. So that's always, it's a bit, people say, oh, he's on steroids, that's why he's angry. It's not, it's because they make you tired, they make you really wear you out, you know. It's a lot to overload your body, which makes you sleepy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, I know in the first Rise of the Foot Soldier film, obviously it was Carlton who was doing the steroids.
I think everyone was doing it back in that day.
Well, yeah, because they were all big, weren't they? There was all.
Yeah.
It was a 90s thing.
You can always tell by their hands and their wrists whether they're. You see these big guys. I know some big guys, but when you look at their hands, they've got like tiny little hands because they're not naturally big. You always tell someone who's naturally big by their hands, you know. Yeah. Yeah. So some of these guys, they looked a bit freaky because they had massive 17-inch arms, but tiny little hands, you know. Yeah. So you knew straight away if they said to you, "Oh, don't take steroids," you just look at their hands and go, "Yeah, all right." Yeah. You know what I mean? And everyone did. Everyone delved into it, you know. Yeah. It was quite I'd say it was as ripe as drugs, you know. Right.
Everybody says that, you know, if you take steroids, you get really bad mood swings. So, I mean, did you find that with Tony as well? He sort of.
Yeah, I did, but like I say, he was doing a lot of work, so it does make you tired, really tired. Right. You know, having mood swings makes you tired.
And obviously, you know, the way they're portrayed in the films, I mean, would you say that they were sort of taking drugs, they were partying, they were taking steroids, they were...
I was away. I was up in Ipswich when all this was happening.
Got it. So you didn't know whether they were doing it or not. Well, but I mean, I think
I went to his engagement party, and he had leather trousers on, this white. I told you in the last podcast, and I just sunk into the background and went because that was someone not like him, you know. Yeah. So when I met him, he would drink hot water. He would not drink tea, coffee. He was, you know, he was quite an orphan now. You know, he wouldn't touch his certain food. Yeah. His clothes-wise, he was kind of basic, you know. Yeah. And then when I saw him at this party, he was doing all the box and "I love you all," and his eyes were like this, and it was different.
He was probably having a good time, yeah.
And that was probably when he turned into well, people know of him now, but I know before all this what he was like. You know?
Yeah. So the before was he was, you know, serious about his fitness,
guy, you know, healthy fitness. You know what I mean? He didn't like people. You had to get on his side. He didn't just go to somebody, "Hello, you're my friend now," like that stuff. You had to be his type of person that he liked.
Did he ever talk much about his days in the army, or did he never?
No, he never said. I only recently found out about that. Yeah. So I don't know. I didn't even know. You know, we talked about judo. Yeah. And we had quite a few people that were employed. Like he got them in, and they were ex-army, paras and so on. You know.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably through them connections, but again, you know. Lots of people, you know, when we did the first Rise of the Foot Soldier, I didn't know anything. I didn't know that part, you know. But then when we actually did the Foot Soldier Origins, which was initially called the Tony Tucker story, you know, it was like, let's really go into this, and then all that stuff come out, and it was like, wow, you know.
Well, you didn't know about the welder shop, or you was a chippy.
Yeah, no, but that's what I mean.
You're going to get some coin, chippy.
Yeah, but we know what chippy is, right?
Yeah, we do know he's a character. Some people made some comments.
No, but it's funny that we actually called that Chipgate. Because that's good. We actually did it because obviously we like having a laugh on this show, so it was dropped in to see people notice, and everyone did notice, and they're all going, "It's not chips in a chippy, it's a carpenter."
You had one recent.
The best one was someone said that only an actor would make this mistake. And it's like, I know what a chippy is. I know what a fish and chip shop is, which is also called a chippy. I do know the difference.
Some people buy it funny.
That was Chipgate, but that was funny. We probably won't have one on this one, but
you could do. You've only just had a recent mention about the chippy. Yeah. You know, suddenly you'll hear loads of great stories. This, that. Just I remember back in then suddenly chippy every so often, isn't it? Someone would chuck it in.
We should. I think what we'll probably do when we get to the end of the first year of doing a podcast, with anything like that that's funny or that's talked about,
got them
we
together.
do a little
montage
just for people to enjoy.
Yeah.
But the when you was up in Ipswich, I remember you said that there was like a crazy UFO incident, and obviously lots of people are obsessed with UFOs, right, around the world. But I mean, what was your sort of
started
experience?
out, I used to train on the army bases. I used to get a pass going there. I used to train fighting wise and do weights. And literally, if you go onto the army base, it's like being in America. They've got shops, restaurants, and they're all American. You know, it's really a nice place to go on. Now, I used to let in this colonel, and he with a few of his guys, a few Marines, and I used to give them the VIP. They used to sit there. They would have a good night, you know, especially if they're on leave. And we had quite a few Marines come in from the army bases. You know, everyone's a Marine in America, aren't they? Though, but this time, I was going home, and everywhere was closed off. The roads, there was army everywhere, and I was thinking, what's going on here? Then the next day, I heard a flying saucer landed in the army base. So, I mean, you can think what you can of it. You can Google it, but it's absolutely crazy. We could be Mulder and Scully. Anyway, so it landed in the army base, and there's a big hoo-ha about it. I mean, you Google it, it goes right into depth about it. Now, the colonel, he came a couple of weeks later after that with a few of his guys, and I said to him, yeah, ain't got any more flying saucers landing in your army base, have you? Now, you could have cut that thing with a knife. He just went... And he looked at me and he went, I can't even talk about that night, Lee. And I went, oh, right, okay. And he went in. And then a friend of mine got hurt by one of the Marines. They, how do I put it, they beaten the hell out of him. So I got out there and I told the first one off. And then I locked up the second one. And I said to my friend who had a cut over his eyes noticeably, hit him. So I locked him up. So he flung him. Now, it'd be nice if he gets hold of me on the podcast and tells you about this that night, because it was... So I locked the guy up, and I go hit him, and he misses, and it's me. Straight in the face. So I went, oh. So I put my arm under the Marine, and I went crack, and told him off, and he fell on the floor. Now, they were going to Iraq to fight, but they couldn't, because they were...
told off.
Not well. Yeah, told off. So it'd be lovely if Steve goes on the pod and tells you about this.
Steve?
Yeah, Steve's the one that got hurt. But
what's his second name?
Steve Perkins.
Steve Perkins, right, yeah, Steve?
He was getting
the invitation's there.
It'd be nice if he does. But then this guy turns up in a suit, and he was American police, wanted to arrest me. And what he'd done was he said to me, can you come on the army base? We need you to make a statement about these two Marines. They can't fly now, and we want to know what happened. So I said, yeah, okay, and I've arranged it for the Thursday. So in the meantime, my friend Martin's brother's ex-policeman. He says to me, you don't want to go on no army base, because the minute you go on the army base, it's literally you've gone to America. They can do whatever they like to you. If you want to leave, they've got to get you extradited and all this stuff. Wow. So they can stick you there and you've had it. So anyway, I told them I'm not going.
Politely declined.
I said, no, thank you. I'm washing my hair. But so they caused a bit of aggro, but it was all just dropped, you know. It was all just forgotten about. And but I couldn't go back on the base anymore, because if I'd have gone on a base, they'd go, no, that's the guy, and I would have been arrested. So,
and obviously there was a famous story in Essex. It was in Southend about the werewolf.
Now, there's probably people watching this podcast going, oh, I've had enough of this. This is too ridiculous. But you can Google it, and if you see what the guy looked like, you would go, wow. Now,
he does look like a werewolf. I've actually seen a picture. So
I was arrested for telling someone off, yeah? So I was in the cells, and then I heard all this commotion. It was growling. It was, he's bit me. Oh, I would have done it. Then there was banging up against, and I put my ear to the door, trying to listen to more. Bang, the door went. Well, but what happened was this gentleman had jumped out the bushes on these young ladies, and he was on all fours. He had his shirt off, and his hair was all standing up, and he was growling, and his teeth were protruding.
He wasn't singing that song, was he?
Blue
Kiora, Kiora, I want to be your dog, doggy, 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 doggy. He was actually howling.
He was actually howling and growling and spitting, and he had all foam. So what happened, one of the girls ran in the police station because it was by the bushes, just by the police station. Right. So the police couple run out, and he just wiped them out. They couldn't do nothing to him. He literally,
what was he? Was he just mad, or was he a werewolf?
I'll tell you what he was. He broke one of the policeman's arms, and 2 of the police officers left after that because it was so distressing. Wow. But what he done was because the full moon emits a lot of electricity, it affects his brain. He was on Strange But True with Michael Aspel. Wow. They interviewed him on there. And they took him to Argentina.
Was he howling then or not?
Well, what they done, they took him to Argentina for some reason, tied him in a chair, and they waited, and you could see him in the chair. He just went, and it's all on YouTube. You can see it, or Google it, or whatever.
So he actually so it's all the jokes and all the fantasy about werewolves. He actually was a fucking werewolf.
And what happened was the cell door opened within about 3-4 hours, and they were going to let me go. And the officer was standing there. He had a big claw mark down his face. His shirt was torn, and his shoe was missing. And I looked at him like, he went, "We could have done with your help." And I went, "Well, should have told me." Anyway, but he stuck his head through the hatch as well, this guy. But what it does is when the full moon comes, it emits a lot of electricity and it affects his brain. And the officer was saying to me as we were walking out the door, guy was super strong. He wiped out most of us. We hit him with batons and stuff. Just didn't have no effect on him.
Wow.
And then the next day, apparently, he was like, as good as normal, you know.
So, and he had no recollection of being a werewolf, or
no, nothing. Until we just
Southend werewolf.
Yeah, Southend werewolf. But
only in Southend.
So have a look at it. It's good to watch.
I suppose. Imagine if he'd have been around Tony Patton Craig. You know what I mean? On a full moon,
they would
mate,
be partying,
getting a werewolf. Ow! You can imagine him turn up at the house. You know what I mean? Well, whatever he's having.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, crazy.
And what happened to him after that? I mean,
he got quite popular because he went off to Argentina. He went off to America. He got on a few of these Strange But True programs.
Fucking hell, he's a celebrity werewolf.
He's a celebrity werewolf.
I wonder if we can get him on a podcast. Can you imagine? Just don't do it on a full moon, you know?
Do it from the door. So you've got somewhere to run. But yeah, so I'll turn that light off.
Right, yeah, you wouldn't like that.
Yeah, so yeah. But I mean, he just, I think he's dead now, but yeah, at the time, it was quite
that is crazy.
I had to bump into it, didn't I?
I mean, it does seem that you attract all this craziness, Lee.
Tell you about it, yeah.
Obviously, when we spoke last time, you'd obviously said you've been firebombed, petrol bomb, you've been shot, you've been stabbed, you've been slashed, you've been through all this fun stuff in your vocation. But on the actual shooting incidents,
well, I've been shot twice.
Right.
Once shot out, once it hit me.
Wow.
Right. So the first time was my friend Dinger Bell. He's called Martin Bell, so they call him Dinger. I mean, it'd be nice if he gets hold of this and says his dad got hurt quite bad by one of his neighbours who was a bit of a... So he said, "Lee, can you come and tell him off with me?" So I said, "Yeah, okay." So I knew his dad very well. So anyway, I was with Dave Coulston. Now, everybody should know Dave. He's on the podcast 6-7 times now. Yeah. We drove down this alleyway, it's like a real long alleyway. We drove down and he didn't stop and he went straight into this car. So we bang, what the hell? He goes, "That's his car." So we waited outside the car while he went in to tell him off, yeah? Now, he's a very capable man. He could tell most people off himself. He didn't really need us. Then in the distance, me and Dave are just chatting, just stretching our legs. He's come running out of the house. Get in the car. So we jumped in the car. What's the matter? He's got a shotgun.
Wow.
So as we pulled away, he fired it and it went through the door into the ashtray that went all over me. Now, I don't smoke and I hate the smell of it. It went through there and hit the door. It just made a big hole, you know. So we managed to drive away and I was covered in cigarette ash. I was like, oh dear. And I can't stand it. I had to chuck my clothes away. I couldn't get the smell. It was absolutely terrible. That was the first time. Then these guys, I was on the door, drove around. Then they drove back. Then they drove around again. They were doing a recce, checking. And then suddenly one of them fired a gun out the window. It hit the pavement, it hit me in the foot. So it took a chunk out of my foot. But because of the pavement, it took quite a lot of the force. So that was the second time I got shot.
And what
don't know what it was about.
Okay, it was just somebody threw out probably or something like that. And then that incident where the guy actually shot through the thing, what happened afterwards? Did he end up getting told off or not?
Yeah.
Right, okay. I was saying because I think it had been told of quite seriously for.
When we got home, I said to my girlfriend about it, and she said, "Let's ring the police up and say we was driving past some nutter with a shotgun." So I said, "All right." So she rang the police. She said, "Oh, I was out with my boyfriend, and there's a nutty," and she gave the directions where we were. And he was shooting guns off. So they were right. And they put the phone down and shot round there and done whatever they did. But I didn't hear nothing else about it. So,
yeah. I suppose you were lucky really that day because if that
had actually covered in cigarette ash.
No, but it's better than having a fucking hole in you.
Oh yeah. But you remember in the back in the day, you had cigarette ashtrays in the doors,
full
didn't
up,
you?
weren't they?
You'd have never bothered emptying them.
I think there's two things, two pet hates. One was when you get in someone's car and the cigarette, it was like overflowing and it just stunk. And the other one is, and this happened to me when I was 18 years of age and I took a girl out on a date. I was driving down the road and we went and had a drink somewhere and then I was driving her home and then she was actually sick. Oh. Not in the footwell, but in the side bit.
Yeah,
right?
To me.
And I was literally like, oh my God, I can't believe you've done this. And I remember like fucking dropping her off and it was like, oh, I'm really sorry. Yeah. I'm never going to see you ever.
Never get rid of it.
And honestly, I tried to get it out. I tried to get it cleaned, but you had to just sell the car because it was just disgusting.
She threw up and it went down, I had leather seats, and it went down the crack in the leather seats. And whenever I picked her up, she was nightclubbing or whatever, she was always pissed. So anyway, she threw down and I couldn't clean it. You could just kind of breeze. Every so I went, especially in the summer. So I had a dog van because I had got a couple of Rottweilers. Well, I had one Rottweiler at the time. Lovely thing it was. So I had a van that I could take him out with. So whenever I picked her up after that, I took her and chucked her in the back of the dog van. Yeah. So you could hear him, as I was driving away, you could hear her kicking the side of the van going, "You put me in the dog van, you put me in the dog van." She was all covered in dog's ears and everything. But say she threw up down the leather bit on it. And you've ruined the car, that's it. Yeah. No matter what you do. See, one of our chauffeur cars, this well-known boxer got in his car, yeah? And as he was taking him out, he got his willy out and peed in the car.
I hope you told him off, because that's not acceptable.
No, the guy who was driving him was ex-Special Forces, like a sniper, and he was from Brazil or somewhere like that. So he wanted to shoot him. It was Joe Kawasaki, the boxer, Joe Kawasaki. So but then his manager came, gave the guy a little bundle of money and said, "Look, I'm so sorry.
Right.
But yeah.
Wow.
And we had problems with Freddie Flintock as well. Whenever he got drunk, he just got violent, really violent. And he's a big old guy.
Right.
So a couple of stars that were naughty, you know what I mean? John Terry. We used to have John Terry come in the club. Yeah. Now.
Which club was this? The
Stringfellow.
Right, okay.
He came out with an ice bucket. Because it was his birthday and he had Willie in the ice bucket, which was quite amusing, you know. I liked the guy because he used to bung me £50 whenever he came in. Yeah. So I liked the guy. There's a few famous people that are right knobs, you know what I mean?
But so he put his Willie in the ice bucket?
The ice bucket came out and with champagne in it and went like that and people were like going like that. Yeah, funny guy, but he only done it to his friends, you know. He didn't do it like everybody.
He came up to you and go, "Lee, do you want a drink?" He would have told you off.
I didn't drink champagne. Right. I had a couple of offers when I was at Stringfellows. Yeah. This guy, oldish guy, with his wife, said to me, "Excuse me." I said, "Yeah." I don't know if I should say this. It's a bit rude. Right. But I'll try and trim it down a bit. He said to me, "Would I sleep with his?" This is my words, not his words. He goes, "Would you sleep with my wife and I'll pay you?" So I looked at her and I thought, she ain't bad looking. I thought, and he'd go, "I'll give you £1,000. But he goes, "I want a watch." So I thought, £1,000. Then he came out. He wanted to do something over my back while I was with her.
And you wasn't up for that, no?
I wasn't up for that. No.
Funny that, yeah.
And then this other guy came in with a group of guys and he wasn't interested in the girls. He was gay. So, but they were his friends. So he chatted with me. He said, "Can I ask you something?" So I said, "Yeah." He said, "If I give you £500, can I head up with it, suck my penis?" Yeah. So I looked at him. I mean, you don't throw me out. Don't throw me out. I went, "I'm not. Can I?" Well, I said, "Well, no, thanks. I'm not into it." But he did have long hair, and I was thinking. you know, from a certain angle, you might get away with it, you know what I mean? But anyway, I turned him down.
So you've been propositioned,
Yeah,
you've been shot,
you've
been firebombed, you've been slashed, you've been stabbed, and you've been about these serial killers and people dying of it. I mean, it is. I mean, I do think there's a fucking movie in it. I really do. It's just
Adventures
Adventures
the
of.
Gary Delaney fight as well. See,
Well, let's talk about that. Yeah, what happened with that?
What happened was there's 3 stories. There's a story that came out recently, which apparently I was out in the street with him and broke his jaw and all this stuff. And I was like, well, that didn't happen. What happened was
So who is Gary Delaney for the
Gary
audience?
Delaney was a world-class boxer. Right. He was middleweight, but he wanted to go up to be heavyweight.
Yeah.
But very, very nasty boxer, puncher. If you Google him, you'll know more about him than what I can tell you. Lovely guy to me.
Yeah.
He used to give me tickets for the boxing. Anyway, he was in there one night. He was seeing a girl called Jodie Marsh, which is quite a famous lady now.
I remember her, yeah.
She was our promotions. Lovely, sweet girl, you know what I mean? And then he started seeing her. Within about a year, little arguments broke out. He'd storm out. She'd be crying, and you thought, like they do. Now, there's a girl upstairs, rather large girl, really irregular, you know what I mean? Lovely girl. He punched her in the mouth, smashed her teeth in.
Wow.
So I was cleaning her up. They were hunting for him, found him, brought him out. He'd knocked out one of my doormen, my DSs. Then he'd knocked out his own friend who drove him, drove him everywhere. Little Indian guy, lovely guy as well, always polite, friendly. So he managed to come down, and he was in the foyer. Now, the foyer is probably about as big as this room.
Yeah.
And he's pacing up and down, his fists are clenched, and he's shouting out, I'll take any one of you. So there's 3 stories. The one that I heard recently, which is, I ain't got a clue where that was. I could say that because it was quite a good one. I could go, yeah, that happened, yeah. But it didn't happen at all the way they said it. And then the second one was what he put out, and then the real one that happened.
So let's talk about the real one.
He says, let's go for him first. He says that I bit his ear off, bit his ear, locked him up and smashed his leg against the door, which broke his leg, yeah? Now, what happened was, when I went out in the foyer, he was pacing about her and he kind of went for me, so on the floor, he was kicking out and he kicked out and kicked the door, which hurt his leg. And then he got like teeth marks in his ear, and the police, he had got me arrested. The police said, like, how comes he's got teeth marks in his ear?
Back in grass.
But what I'd done was I had a metal watch with bevels. Yeah. So as I threw him, the bevels caught his ear. So it looked like teeth marks. That's what I told the police.
Yeah.
And the police believed me, and they dropped it.
Wow.
So
if you're going to like knock a woman's teeth out and then knock people out and start offering people out for a fight and you get fucking served up, you can't run at the police and go, I've been assaulted. Well, you know what I mean? It's just like...
He did, and he tried to sue me.
Wow.
Because he lost a few fights. He was meant to be fighting on Sky. But he'd done the same with Jodie Marsh. He tried to sue her. It was his kind of thing at the time.
Wow.
But then...
I've got no sympathy for people like the behave
like I said
that.
to you, to go to the police if you lose a fight. I mean, if I lost a fight, ever lost a fight, last thing I'd do is go to the police.
Probably not going to happen though, Lee, is it, to be fair?
Well, I mean, no. I had I've over the years, I can only remember the ones that were really good. Now, I had 2 guys. One was a thatcher, doing the straw on your roof. I had a sweat with him. And a guy who was in the Marines Special Forces, he was like catching Somalians,
Yeah.
He was one of them guys, Now, they both of them are the only ones I can remember going back that I had trouble with. I built up a sweat. If I weren't at my peak, I think they would have mullered me easy. Yeah. And the other one, when I done judo, I never lost at judo. I had some lovely times at judo. When I won the Essex, they give out all the trophies, give out all the awards and all that stuff, and left me. So I'm sitting there thinking, what's going on? And then they said, everyone stand up. So everyone stood up, and they were clapping, and then they called my name out.
Amazing.
And then what he'd done, he held it back because I'd done so well.
Wow.
Then I went in the open. I was about 95 kilos, which is 15, 16 stone. And I fought a guy. Now, this guy was in his 20 stoners, but I thought, give it a go. And this guy mullered me. And it was probably the only one I remember. And do you know who that was? Brian Blessett.
Wow.
You know what I mean by Brian Blessett?
Yeah,
he's a guy
in Flash Gordon.
Yeah, Flash Gordon, yeah.
Who'd have known that?
And you could tell straight away, the minute he got hold of my suit, I was kind of like, whoop, and I knew this ain't
For anybody who likes Flash Gordon, this is Ming the Merciless we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So you got done at judo by Ming. Was it? Did he have the little
was
moustache on?
He was the bird. He was the Birdman, Hawkman, wasn't he? In Flash
he was.
Gordon.
Sorry, I thought he was Ming the Merciless. Sorry,
he was
my
Hawkman.
mistake. My mistake. The Hawkman.
Yeah, and he was in Z Cars. He was.
I remember him. He's amazing actor.
Really loud at it, but he climbed Everest. He was.
Right.
He was in the army. Well, apparently so. He was in the army, and he was in a special unit. But I don't. I mean, I'd say a rumour.
Well, I remember growing up on Flash Gordon. I love Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
And watching the movie. But who played Ming the Merciless? Because I don't know why I thought it was Brian Bessie, but I remember him being in the movie.
Yeah.
But he was the
He was the Hawk.
He was the bad. Was he the right hand man of Ming the Merciless?
No, he was one that ended up. He was bad at start, then he might have ended up helping.
Got it.
And he had all these characters flying in the sky, and they were getting shot down. Flash! Well, what a voice. I see him on Have I Got News For You a couple of weeks back now. He's so loud, you know what I mean? He's in his 80s, but
wow.
But anyway, he was so strong.
He was 20 stone.
He was heavier than that.
Fucking hell, wow.
He mullered me.
Right.
I mean, I didn't have. And the other one was a guy who had just come out of the World's Strongest Man. His name was Selby Prince. He was a big 22, 23 stone guy. So I fought him, and I did all right. I was doing all right, and then we went to the ground, because some big guys, you get them to the ground. Yeah. Anyway, so he went to strangle me. It's called a Dakajimi. He went to strangle me, but what you do, you grab hold of your own suit and you lock yourself in so that they can't strangle you. But he just got his hands and he went, I nearly ripped my top, and he just choked me out, and I lost. So they're the only two I really remember.
Yeah.
When I used to go to the army base, American army base, I used to fight a lot of them. They were rubbish, absolute crap, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, they're the only two I really remember.
And what level did you get to in judo? You got your black belt, I take it?
I got my black belt, yeah. Then I did boots Siokwa, which is, you just get trained for something that's going to, so like I say, it ain't worth me doing roof kicks and backflips and all that stuff. I was 25 stone. So I just mastered certain things, which I've used on the doors and stuff. But then when we did, when I trained with the American Marines, you can't actually do it to somebody because it's all about killing people. So we had these crash test dummies that they got that were 14, 15 stone crash, real solid. And we used to do the stuff on them because I couldn't do it on you. You'd be dead. You couldn't do it on me because I'd be dead. So we had to literally use crash test dummies, which was quite fun to do.
Yeah.
So,
and obviously from the door work, and like you've given us some Stringfellow stories, which were fun. But when you were doing your sort of close protection stuff, as well as the door work, did you have a princess from the Middle East come to?
Yes. Now, you couldn't see much. She had a burqa on, but then she went into the toilets, was gone for about 20 minutes, come out. She looked like one of the strippers.
Wow.
She had this mini skirt on, she had her boobs hanging out, and it was the sort
Do you think she actually got changed?
Yeah, she got changed.
Oh, I didn't know that was what she had on underneath.
Yeah. She had quite a big entourage. You know, she had good 20 odd people with her.
Wow.
Your bodyguards, other girls, something like that. And she, at the end of the night, she spent, it was about 58 grand she spent.
In Stringfellows?
In Stringfellows. Well, when you think...
No wonder Peter always looked good in them. What, they leather print?
Leather print, yeah. I think he's a lovely guy. I think he lost that after
God rest his soul. But
he was a lovely guy.
He was a character.
His
I remember
son was
him.
even better. His son was Scott.
Right.
His son was a lovely guy as well, you know.
Yeah.
Got on well with him. But he used to bring people in and bring them up to me.
Wow.
Go, this is Lee, and they'd like shake me thinking, why is he? But he loves showing off, you know.
Amazing. So you met Dubai, sorry, not Dubai, but you met a Middle Eastern princess.
Yeah.
Obviously you met famous footballers.
Yeah, loads. Quite a few. Loads of actors.
Yeah.
I threw out a few actors that were in these gangster movies, you know what I mean? Like Bad Boy, some of them. Do you know who I am and all this stuff? Yeah. Oh, dear.
You're in the movies, mate.
Yeah, not in my world. So,
have you got any other funny stories, like with celebrities that?
They all had a little funny thing. Money they spent, you know. They get people come out and go, I've just done 100 quid. And you look at them and go, right, £100, you know. Right. If the girls didn't make £1,000 that night, they weren't very good.
Oh, so they made a lot of money then?
Oh, yeah. Wow. So we had cars turn up with Rolexes, you know, people delivering Rolexes. We had 2 cars turn up for the girls. Someone brought them.
Wow.
If they didn't make £1,000.
So they were making that and getting cars and Rolexes.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Colossal. There was quite a few of them that sold their soul to the devil, which is what I say.
Right.
Because they were absolute dirtbags, you know what I mean? They were, get whatever they can get. I had one of them who lost £40. She put it on the table for a dance and she lost it. And she was crying, giving it all. Oh, she came up to me, said, someone stole my money, check on the cameras. All that. When at the end of the night, they put their money in and the next night they get the real money once Stringy's taken his bit
is it
out.
like funny money or whatever it is?
Yeah, angel money it's called. So,
angel dollars.
Yes. She made £6,000.
Wow.
Now, no one wants to lose money. No one wants to lose £40. Of course, I'd say, you know, but the way she was going about it, she was accusing everybody and everything, you know. I
mean, it's difficult, you know, because it must be difficult if you go in there and you end up wanting to marry one of the strippers out of the thing.
Yeah, they were the ones that sold their soul to the devil, you know.
Right.
And you could see them at the end of the night when I was going home, going into the hotel that's just at the top of the road. And with the customer, you know, I mean, they're not allowed to do that. It was quite a lot of rules.
No, I know. They're especially Westminster. I mean, Westminster's very strict.
Well, I mean, buyers in the way they wanted to do things. Scott, his son, was very tight on certain things, you know. And even Stringy was. He was literally, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't wear that, you can't do this. You know what I mean? They'd be quite respectable in trying to make it good. I
think out of all the, a friend of mine did a Christmas party at Stringfellow's. And I always thought Stringfellows was a nightclub because when I was doing clubs in the early 90s, it was an actual nightclub. And I think there was a guy called Chris Quinton who was in Coronation Street.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. He was another good guy.
But he was always there, and it was like a sort of celebrity club which people would go to. I suppose that was probably like it was like a private members club, but it was for celebrities.
What they done was they turned it into the War Door. It's called the War Door. So. But it lasted about 6 months. The dance floor was a beer mat, so everybody just couldn't get on there. You know what I mean? So, and they weren't making great money. So, and that's when Chris Quinton was running it. You know, good guy, nice guy. You know what I mean? But his stuff he had, why he got booted off and all this was a little bit iffy. You know, so to put him in a strip club, most of the guys.
Well, actually, I can't even remember what happened to him.
Well,
did
he got done for some sexual stuff.
Got it.
Yeah, so
putting him in that environment probably wasn't the best.
Probably not a good idea to stick him in a strip club. So,
but it wasn't a strip club then, was it?
No, that's what I'm saying. It was the War Door. Then it was just useless. It weren't making thousands. So they turned it back into a nightclub. A strip club. And he stayed there for a while. And that's when we thought to ourselves, this is not a very good thing to do, you know, having a strip club. But he went off to somewhere else and run a strip club. But, you know, nice guy, always polite, friendly, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I've only met him a couple of times. He always seemed okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't know him, but, you know, I've seen him in Sedlow.
When we say that, he never had a chip on his shoulder. He never was like, I'm a celeb, you know what I mean? That's what I mean by it. He was just a normal guy, you know. So.
I think with the, because when I went there, I was like, oh, this is a strip club. Right, and then we had like dinner thing, and then sort of the club was shut, so it was my mate had it privately, and then we had dinner, and then there was some girls turned up, and then the club opened, I think, at whatever time it was, but I did think, oh, you know, they've done it really nicely, and it was lovely, decorated, and then when you sort of talk to people that I know who like going to strip clubs, they all said Stringfellows, you know, was the, you know, if you wanted to go to a high-end strip club, that was the one.
Definitely, yeah.
I know there's a lot of them now.
He kind of branched all the others to start coming out doing strip clubs because they knew about the money.
And you can obviously go into, most strip clubs would just let anybody in, but I know there was very sort of strict there.
I changed some of the rules, really, because I was always paying attention to people who were turning up. Now, we had one guy turn up in a tracksuit. I mean, you don't let a guy in a tracksuit in the night. But when I looked at his watch, he had this Cartier watch that was millions, you know. And he had this, when he got out of the taxi, he paid the guy £350 notes. So I looked at him, he said, hello, is that okay? Yeah, come in. Now, the management at the time, Kong, his name was, and Chris, done their nuts. And why you let him in? The guy spent about 40 grand in there.
Right.
He was something to do with...
Thank me later.
He was something to do with Shell Oil.
Wow.
And I said to him, and I kept contact with him after that for a while. Yeah. He invited me to a big opening and all this. But I said to him, right, he goes, well, if I walk around with my Cartier in my suit and my Armani's and all this stuff, I'm going to be mugged. And that's what he thought. So that's why he downloaded his clothes. Wow. Then I had these 2 women turn up, very posh. One was an actress, but at low level, and the other one was a top law American lawyer. So I let them in. You don't let women into a strip club because the guys in there would start paying attention to them and not the strippers.
Got it.
So the management kicked a fuss up again. So they came to me and said, hey, you know, I went, listen, they'd done about 30 grand as well in there.
Wow.
You know? Wow. So then Stringy turned around and said, don't ever question Lee. You know what I mean? So, but because I paid attention to what they did, if they got out a car or a Rolls Royce or something like that and they had hillbilly trousers on and a dirty T-shirt, I wouldn't knock them back because these guys literally, and the girls as well. Now, these 2 girls were lesbians and they paid a lot of money for the girls. It worked out well, you know. So in the end, you can leave Lee to do it. Did
he give you a commission structure? He should have looked after you.
I never touched my wages. Never touched my wages. Right. Very rarely touched my wages because all the tips we put together and then we shared it out at the end. Yeah. And then I had all the cars outside. We had about 11 cars. Wow. So they all paid rent to me. So I never really touched my wages, but it was very good. Yeah,
so it was a good money spinner for you.
Oh, it was very good. They paid for your suits. They paid for your badge. Wow. You had holiday. Christmas, they shut down for 2 weeks with full pay plus another pay. Wow. They were throwing money at you.
They looked after you, didn't they?
They looked after me, really good.
So when you were doing your, obviously you met all these great people when you was working in these places, and did you do any actual private work for anybody?
Yeah, I did. I was walking home from the sports centre and this big red Rolls Royce pulled up. And he goes, I've noticed you walking past a few times. You don't fancy some work. But don't forget, by then I was probably 27 stone.
Got it.
And I was quite ripped as it goes. You know, there weren't much fat on me. And he went, I just need a big guy to help me out. So he owned this apartment store in Essex, quite a big posh apartment store. So he goes to me, I've got some work if you want some work. So I started working for him, basically. Yeah. We did. He wanted to do a dodgy one on his Rolls Royce. So, but before that, I was going to see my daughter. So he rang me out of the blue and said, look, I need you for about an hour and a half. I'll give you 500 quid. So I went, okay. So what we done, we went into this car park in an abandoned Pictures. So I'm standing there, we get out of his Rolls Royce, in comes this taxi, a black taxi. Out comes these 2 goons, and they're like this, looking at me. And I could see the handle of one of their guns, like a shotgun. And the other one made sure he see it as well, even though it's to me. Now, I put my hand, I had a ski jacket at the time, I put my hand in a ski jacket and went like that. Now, previous to that, I'd bought my daughter Twinkle magazine. Okay. And I'd stuffed it in my pocket. So they had their shotguns looking at me like this. I'm up like that, and I'm giving it all the big one. And I'm holding on to this Twinkle magazine. And I'm thinking, if they pull their shotguns out now, I'm going to tell them what bracelet my daughter likes or does she want to do the Play-Doh, you know what I mean? So I'm like this anyway. They're going, whoa, like it. And I went, yeah, come out, I'll twinkle you. And,
twinkle you.
I looked at them and they were looking at me. And it went on for a little while. They got in the car, done their deal. They took the car away. But before that, a Porsche turned up. And I was 27 stone-ish, 20. Have you ever seen an elephant trying to get in a Mini?
I know, and it's like it's got to sit on the floor, right?
Well, yeah,
it's so low
my
down.
arse, I couldn't get my arse in, and I couldn't get me. So I could see kind of like the corner, these 2 goons with their shotguns going. As I was trying to get, so I have trouble now getting in small cars, but that's because of injuries and stuff. Yeah. But that day I was just too big to get in. So anyway, I lay on the floor and they drove off, and they gave me 150 quid. Wow. And then I did a job. He bought some leather furniture he sat on it and it colour come off. So I went, I'm pissed off with this. So he goes, this is the factory, Lee, but you've got to be careful because they're a bit gangstery. So I went there with the pretext that it's going to be a little bit naughty. I got there, right? There was a guy with no hand. Right. Yeah, he was a puncher. There was a young lad, probably 10, 11, and then the other guy would just stand at the door and the colour just drained from his face and he went, I'll get you the money. And they give me the money and I went and give it back to him. But I was a little bit annoyed because I'd scared the hell out of these guys, and they didn't really need scaring. I could have gone in there, I could have posted them a letter saying I've guessed the money. They would have gone, "You all right?" But he made it look bigger than what it was.
Yeah.
And then there was a guy that owed him money for being. He helped him out being an hairdresser.
Yeah.
Now he had a famous sister, Latoya Wilcox. So I went to this house with him. Knocked on the door opened, and he went to slam it, and I put my foot in the door, and I told him off. Now he grabbed hold of him and started kissing and cuddling him. It was his boyfriend. Then when I've gone, "Oh, why'd you hit him, Lee? Why'd you hit him?" Like that, and I went, "Shut the door, mate." No, and he was cuddling him, kissing him and all this. And it was his boyfriend, which I didn't know. And then I looked around, I'm thinking, "Oh, this is embarrassing." And there was all pictures of Latoya Wilcox. You know, it's a mystery. So that was his brother.
Wow.
So that was another story. Then he had these two Dobermen. And I went to his house, massive house in Hornchurch. So I went to this house, and these two Dobermen are like walking in front of his lawn. He had quite a big garden, and they came up to the fence, and yeah, lovely. And he had this like yellow tape. So, I mean, this is a weird story, but it's true. He had a yellow tape, and he goes, walk past the yellow tape, mate. So as I got to getting to the yellow tape, they stopped and they was looking at me, both of them. You know how Doberman pinchers are.
Yeah.
I'm like, then I went to them. He trained them to anyone go over that yellow tape and rip the pieces. But because of the local kids come past, they were trained to be friendly there. But the minute you go past, that's how clever they were.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
My mate had a Doberman pincher, and he used to give it steroids, lots of steroids. Now, I've never seen a dog with abs. I used to go round his house, I'm joking now, but I used to go round his house and he'd be doing sit-ups. But the dog used to hold onto your foot. If you was in his house, he'd hold onto his foot. You try and move your foot, he would like that. Okay, chew it then. But he kept digging holes in the ground, so he got rid of it. But it was a massive dog.
But was it just to make the dog just bigger?
Yeah, he was one of them guys who just wanted a massive dog, and it was big.
Wow.
When it put its feet on my shoulders, and its head was the same height as me.
Wow.
So, and then, it was a massive thing.
Yeah, you don't want one of them on, yeah?
Another time I was scared of an animal was my girlfriend had racehorses. The one who was strong could pull the cars. Now, when I met her, she was in the garden. I went round the house, went in the garden, and I could feel the ground rumbling. And I'm like, not many things scare me, And the ground was rumbling. I think, what the hell's going on here? And out of the distance come these two racehorses. Now, I've never been so scared in my life. They were running straight towards us. And she's only a little girl, and she had a bucket of oats. They come straight at us, and I'm like this, oh my God. And they just literally went round us. She hit one of them, hit the other one, put the oats on the floor, and we went in. And I'm like walking there thinking, oh God, thank God that's over with. It scared the hell out of the muscles on these racehorses.
And they're a bit nutty as well, weren't they? They are nutty.
Yeah, because they were ready for a race. So they were jacked up,
yeah.
So, yeah.
Steroids were.
I don't think she can steroids. But that was the other time I was scared of a dog. Then I got attacked by a dog. I did a job, and I didn't know that he had his dog with him. So when I was telling him off, this dog came from nowhere and took a chunk out of my calf. Yeah, I didn't even know he was taking his dog for a walk. That was a long, long while ago, though.
Yeah. So you've obviously met all these crazy people. Have you ever done any work with anybody in government?
Yeah. One of my friends works for the MOD, Ministry of Defence. Only low-level stuff, but he branched out and worked to me. And we did quite a few things. First one was an MP's son. So we picked him up from the Brits. He said, I want a fry-up. So I know London really well because I worked there for a while. So I took him to this nice fry-up place. Then he goes, oh, I fancy. He goes, I fancy doing a bit of bowling. So, okay. So I took him to bowling. And then he needed to go to the bank. He went to the bank. Then he wanted a shoot. So I kind of couldn't help him with that, really. But my mate, he knew some people, so he got him a prostitute. And then we walked around with him, but we're not allowed to know who his dad was. So months I kept watching Emperor Time and all that to see if I could, because he had quite a distinctive, he was quite fat, and he had quite a distinctive face. And I was trying to watch it to see if I could see his dad, but never could, but you're not allowed to know. Got it. So, and then the police come and took him away. They're like, what they call them? What they call the police that do that? Anyway, they came and took him away. So, And that was a good day.
Was that
you
the
know?
protection?
Yeah,
Right, okay.
protection police or whatever they are.
Wow.
They came and pulled up outside Oxford Street Station and took him away.
Yeah.
Then the other time we picked up these Arabs from the London airport. So we opened the door, got them in, took them, never said nothing to us. Took us to the Ritz, not the Ritz, what's the other famous hotel? What's the other famous one? Hotel?
Claviges?
No. I'll think of it in a minute.
Yeah.
We took them there and we sat downstairs. We got there about 11 o'clock in the morning. So we sat there. 12 o'clock come at night. Their guy came down. You can go now. Give us all like 500 quid, and that was there. So that was quite an easy one, really. But I did a few of them airport runs. It was a good little bit of money.
Yeah.
And I went into the MOD building. So you can't go certain places. What they do, they give you this little red tag with a light on it. So if you go anywhere you shouldn't, it sets the alarms off. But at certain places it's programmed, you can go. I mean, it's a bit boring, this, but they said to me, walk out with it. I went, what? Walk out of it. So I went, oh, okay. So I walked out of it and manner of things come out. You know, the lights come on. I had guns pointed at me and everything. But when you get there, we was going to a barbecue, my friend's barbecue. So we've pulled into the MOD building.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of guards with guns on you, right? So you've got to stand there with your hands behind your back and lock your fingers. Yeah, you're not allowed to move while they check your car for bombs and stuff like that. And in the meantime, we're chatting to these guys who are pointing guns at us. So you're coming to the barbecue this weekend? Yes, mate. Yeah. What time? It's about 3 o'clock. What do you want me to bring you? Like, and it's just casual. And then when they go all clear, they drop their guns down and they shake their hands. So then they were at the barbecue. But in the meantime, they were pointing guns, chatting up. And I was thinking, this is mad, you know, this is crazy. If you move or do anything wrong, they've got every right to shoot you.
Have you ever thought about writing a book, Lee?
Yeah. So, I mean,
I think you should.
My boy was... He'd done a YouTube, he got a contract in America for doing movies.
Yeah.
He got a scholarship.
Yeah.
So he said to me, Dad, I'm going to write your book for you.
Yeah.
So I said, we'll sit down one day, we'll have a good, and we'll write it down, just some of the stuff. So.
And we should obviously talk about your boy because he was the reason why you come on the podcast.
Yeah, Dad, you got to do the podcast, But I was never really into it because I used to, not many, but I watched a few and they just wind me up. They're like panto dames. Oh my God, I smashed this guy. I smashed that guy up. I mean, I met Dave Courtney and I was sitting in this with this really nice lady. And he come up to me and he sat down, let me give you a cuddle and all that stuff. And started going on about fights. And that he was driving around with a water pistol, shooting people with a water pistol full of pee. Yeah, and my girlfriend, as I looked at her, she was going, she hated all this stuff. She didn't even want to go at me originally because she goes, Dorman are rough. So we went to Dagenham Market and swaying off a little bit. We went to Dagenham Market and I said, no, I'm a nice guy, I'm a nice one. She goes, yeah, all right. But she kind of like, whenever I went to a club with her, people would come up and shake my hand and say hello to me. You know, Dorman would just go, come straight through and all that. So she thought, what's going on here? I'm telling her I'm low level, I'm nothing. So we went to Dagenham Market and it was my fault. I pulled out and this guy, I cut him up. So what happens? He jumps out of his car, comes storming over to me, pulls my door open. So I told him off. And then I got back in the car and as we drove off, I took his door off in his car. So I'm speeding down the road and she's just, I can remember it today. I was just standing, sitting there driving that way. She's just going, she looked at me, she went, would you like me to drive? And I went over for a while, but she didn't like all that stuff, you know. Yeah. But that's the thing with Dave Courtney, you know what I mean?
What was, so where was, but why was he telling you that? I mean, he
just comes straight.
I mean, he was always a practical joker, and I know, you know, obviously he's no longer with us, so R.I.P. Dave, but he was always playing jokes on people. He told me one story like that, but it was actually quite funny. And he said to me, "Are you going to the London Marathon tomorrow?" I went, "No," right? Because well, I'm going to go, right? And I was like, "Oh, right, sweet." And then I think a week later, I spoke to him about something because he used to write an article for a magazine that I used to do called Dodgy Dave's Rave Page, and it was like a rave magazine. And I rang him up and said, "Oh, you know," and he said, "I've got a really funny story for the magazine this month." And I said, "What'd you do?" And he said, "I've got a bottle of vodka And he said, I stood on the halfway mark and I was pouring out
that's
in the
funny.
water cups. And then as people walked past giving it to me, he goes, they're knocking it back and then go,
Oh, that's funny, that is, yeah.
and I did laugh.
Yeah,
Right?
no,
It's a
that-
fucking horrible thing to do, but it was funny. Do you know, it did make me laugh. But he was always playing jokes on people. But he was talking to you about fights.
Yeah, he
and-
was saying I'd smash this guy up and all that. But he didn't even, like, break windows in the sense... He didn't go, hello, Lee, how are you? How's things? You know, it was this late. He just went straight into violent stuff. And me personally, I'm not into that either, really, talking about it as in, I smashed this guy up. There was 10 of them. And like you've heard it, I've heard it. Yeah. And you just go, this don't happen. I remember a book by Nosher Hughes. He was a stuntman.
Yeah.
And what I liked about him, he was so true to what it is. Now, this guy's a big guy, stuntman, was in Brannigan with John Wayne.
Yeah.
Now, said he was standing on the door. Next minute, he woke up in hospital.
He was a bare knuckle fighter, wasn't he?
Yeah,
I
he
remember.
fought Lenny McLean.
Yeah.
But he said he woke up in hospital. And his mate was there. He said, you're right here. But he goes, why? And he goes, this young guy came behind you and punched you in the face. Right. I mean, that's the true world. That's the real world. That's not, I bashed up 20, 30 people. Now, that's what I liked about his book. I've read a few books.
Yeah.
I got in a bit of a bug with them, you know, like Red Ross Shaw's and Lenny McLean's, and it just made me cringe.
Yeah.
But I read his book and it was so true. This can happen. You stand there, someone bang, knock your spark out.
I think that's the thing. I mean, you know, people always talk about fighting and who's hard and all this stuff, but I mean, it is only really one
Real
punch.
world.
It's one punch, and if
I
he
got hit by this young boy, he must have been 18. So he had to go out, and I said, you got to leave. And his friend got in between us. And I always like people, if they've got their friends, to take them out. It saves me doing it, and they kind of calm down. Now, he got in the middle of them, and he swung around at me right in the jaw.
Right.
Yeah. But it was like hitting a tree, really. I mean, he weren't nothing much. So I got him out, flipped him over on the floor, got hold of him. And I said to him, when you're 21, come and see me, I'll give you some door work. Because if he weren't scared to hit me, he's going to be the beers on the door.
game, yeah.
So I went like that, and I went, go away. And he went, and he left. And then I had a guy do kung fu on me. This was in Ipswich.
did 1-inch punches, why is he not flying backwards?
He done this roundhouse kick, and he hit me in the shoulder and fell on his arse. Yeah? So I looked at him, and I went over to top him like that. Now, James Powell, a real good friend of mine, one of my DSs, is the local kickboxing coach. And it was one of his students. So he was like, Lee, please don't hurt him, don't hurt him, don't hurt him. And I went, let him go, you know. But what good people that they weren't scared of my size or nothing. You know what I mean? Now, these are real people. Yeah. You know, so like I said, you could be standing there 1 minute and you're in hospital the next.
Yeah.
You know, I've been hit in the face with a rounder's bat.
Wow.
In Bedford. I was working in Bedford. I had a few places. A little argument broke out. One of my desks was on the floor and they were hitting him with bats. So I ran out there to stop them, and one of them caught me in the mouth. All it done was really, I looked like Mick Jagger. Next day, my boy
You didn't have
came.
your lips done, you were already like...
My boy came round. He was probably about 5 or 6 then. He came round my house. He was like looking at me in the face. He goes, what you done? And I look like, I'll break my lips away. But I told him off, and I told a couple of other guys off, and they all ran off anyway. But I got stuck in a taxi booth once. We chucked some guys out. They went to their cars, got their bats. Now, this is the ones with the nails.
Wow.
Yeah, this is what. So I was right down the other end of the building. This was Hollywood's, and I could see the doorman pissing and joking about, you know, not paying attention to me. They came towards me. There was about 4 of them. The others were not really interested. But we used to have a little taxi booth. So I thought, right, you can't all get in there at once. So I went inside the taxi booth. First one come in with a bat with a nail, and I told him off. And then the other ones kind of loitered around the front, and I went out and told them to off. The others just got back in their car. They didn't want to know it. But that's when I first ever had a case where the guy had a baseball bat with nails in.
Wow.
You know? Yeah. So if I weren't, if I didn't have that taxi booth there,
Right.
God knows what would have happened, you know.
Yeah. But I'm sure getting hit with one of them, man, is not going to be much fun.
Well, no. But if you've got a baseball bat in your car for protection, always make sure you've got a glove and a ball.
And a ball, yeah.
Because if the police pull you over, I play baseball.
Right.
You know?
So you're getting advice from Lee Chapman on the Criminal Connection podcast. You know, one thing, you know, that, you know, I do actually want to dedicate this podcast to your son.
Yeah.
Because without your son, he wouldn't have come on the podcast. And I'm glad that you've only come on our podcast, and I'm glad that you've chosen the podfather to share stories with.
Definitely. No other.
But you know, when I spoke to you about, you know, what happened to your son, I mean, it was heartbreaking. And you know, I mean, for anybody who's listening to or watching this podcast, you know, I don't know if you want to just share some.
I can't really say too much.
Right, got it. Because
he died in October. This October just gone. But before he died, I met him and he said, "Come and do the podcast. You got to do the podcast." So I did.
Yeah.
Even though he'd been dead only 4 days. So
he'd already died by the
yeah.
Wow. Do you know what, Lee? I didn't even know. I thought it happened after the podcast.
No, he died just before, about 5 days before the podcast.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, so, because I got offered a couple of podcasts. One, I was involved in a bus crashed, which my knee hit the bar, so I couldn't go to this podcast. So that was cancelled. And then I see your one, you know, through Mahoney.
Yeah.
And he said, "Lee, come and do this. He's a great guy, you know."
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here now with you.
Yeah.
But my boy, I met him, say, about 4 days before he died, and we were having a drink together. Yeah. And he said to me, "Oh, you got to do it. You got to do it, Dad. And we've got to write our book."
Yeah.
Because he was into all films and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Very clever guy. He built his own laptop.
Wow.
It was never a problem when he was a kid. In school, we used to go to his open days.
Yeah.
And they used to go, "He's brilliant."
Wow.
Very super clever, but he takes after his mum.
How old was he?
When he died, he was 21.
Wow. I mean, that is too young. I mean, you know, as I said, Lee, you know, when we spoke, obviously offline, you know, I think anybody watching this podcast that's lost anybody, whether it's a child, whether it's a parent, whether it's a friend, I think nobody can prepare you for that trauma. And in a weird sort of way, I think your son will be definitely looking down on this podcast, and he's probably going to go, "See, I told you, Dad."
He knew quite a lot of my stories, other than the ones that were, how do I put it, that were nasty or horrible. You know, I mean, I didn't tell him ones about, you know, and that's where I get the thing from. I told him off.
Got it.
I could say I smashed him. You know, most of these guys, they want to.
But saying you've told someone off, it kind of makes it funny, and it also sort of desensitises. You know, so I think it's good.
I could say smashed him up, and like some of these guys and girls that are on you know, and I just, you know, it's not my thing. Yes, I'd like to say I told them off. Yeah. There are some things I've done which I'm dirtly ashamed of. Yeah. You know, but I'd always tell people, because loads of my DSs go, "Lee, tell me about this, tell me about it," you know, because they're fine. I'd always tell you the funny ones, or quite close to not being that funny, but mostly the funny ones. Yeah. But there are some real horrible ones out there.
Absolutely.
You know,
and I think
I never told my boy any of them. I only ever told him the funny ones, and he loved it.
But I think the thing, Lee, is when you're in that that place where you're working on a door or you're doing some work, you know, you do. I mean, you know, some of the things I saw when I was doing events, you know, it was crazy. Do you know what I mean? It was like mad, like to the point where you go, "Is that really happening here?" Yeah. Right. And I always used to question it, saying, you know, and maybe it was because I was, you know, stupid, you know, or green, but I always used to say, why isn't this on the front page of the newspapers? Why don't people know? You know, and a friend of mine who's obviously in the police said, you know, we don't do that because we don't actually want to some of these things are so bad. I mean, obviously, if there's a serial killer around or somebody's been stabbed in a public place, obviously now it seems to be like there's a lot more news because people have got phones. But back then, it was like you never heard of, you know, drive-by shootings.
Well, I got a Bravery award for taking these knives off these guys. Now, when I went to the ceremony, I was the only non-policeman there. I was the only public person. Everyone was a policeman there. And I felt bad being there because some of what the police had got Bravery awards for made mine look like I'd taken a lollipop off someone. You're talking jumping in the river, saving someone's life, going into a fire, stopping some guys with guns, stopping someone with machetes, stopping children that were getting abused.
Yeah.
And there was a good 50, 60 of us there, and I was only a civilian.
Yeah.
But when I looked at, and because what they did, their parents, it was all broadcast.
Yeah.
Because of the pandemic at the time. Excuse me. So, and I was listening to their stories, and I was going to walk out.
Right.
Because all I'd done was took 2 big knives off of the Somalians that were trying to kill someone.
Right.
You know, and I thought to myself, that's rubbish compared to some of this, well, most of these people. There was even a dog there that got an award with his owner, with, you know, with his trainer.
I mean,
for bravery.
lots of people, do give the police a hard time, but they do, I mean, for what they get paid, they put their lives on the line, and you have to respect.
There was a guy there, he had five Bravery awards in one for one. Wow. And I mean, the guy was so humble, but the things he did, you go, you don't hear none of this on the paper, like going back to what you said.
Yeah.
You don't. And I think every time something like this happens, it would make the police's presence a lot better.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
people don't even know half this stuff, what the police did, you know what I mean? So if you found out this policeman who was asking you not to do balloons or not to park your car there saved a young girl, a child, in a river, you'd probably listen to him a lot more.
Oh, for sure.
But they don't do it, do they? They should do it. They should. I remember years ago in the Sun, they did an award thing for police. And that was the only one I've ever seen.
Yeah, but I definitely think I absolutely agree with that. And
they need more recognition.
Yeah.
And then that would cause that would call a knock-on effect where people have more respect for them.
Absolutely. Obviously, last year you obviously had to come to terms with. You only got one son, was it?
Yeah, and I've got 2 daughters.
Right. Okay. Amazing. So you've got 3
daughters. Sorry, 3 daughters.
Oh, 3 daughters.
One of them's been an American since she was 6.
Okay, so it feels like 2, but
yeah. Well, I only ever see the 2 really.
Yeah.
So.
But then obviously you've lost your boy. Was he the eldest?
No, my daughter in America is the oldest.
Got it. So what was he? The middle child?
He was third one.
Right, the third one. So
I
obviously
got one of 40 odd.
Right.
I had when I was 16.
Yeah.
Then my other one's 31. He was 21.
Yeah.
And my one is 13.
Wow. And anybody that's watching or listening to this podcast, I think people do question, when somebody does pass, do they die and there's nothing, or do they live on? What actually happens, right? And I know 1,000,000% that people do live on. The spirit lives on. I know that for a fact, right? And a friend of mine who I met a few years back, he was a builder, and he was in his late 40s, and he was crippled with arthritis, couldn't do any work, and he literally was sat indoors, and he got depressed, and then he started hearing voices, and he thought he was going mad, right? And it turned out he was actually having a spiritual awakening. Right. And he went to the doctors. They gave him Prozac. They said, "You're nuts. You're depressed. Whatever. Take all these pills." But then the voices didn't go away. Then he started seeing things, and he thought, "I'm either going fucking mad, or something's happening." So somebody said to him, "Oh, you should go to a spiritual church." So he went to a spiritual church, and he was stood in there, and he heard this voice telling him to stand up and speak. So he stood up and spoke, and he didn't know what he was saying. And then he sat down, and he was like, "Right, okay." And then at the end, when they have a cup of tea, this woman come up, and she said, "That message was for me." And then he started talking to her, but he was being told what to say.
Yeah.
And then the guy from the church said, "You've actually got a gift where you can actually hear and see and speak with spirits, right?" And people that are watching this that don't believe this will probably think, "What a load of bollocks! Terry's nuts. This guy's nuts. He's a bullshit or whatever." But he told me this, right? And I was like, "Wow!" And he said, and then I dedicated my life to helping people.
Yeah,
and he used to go and help people, and he did a thing called Proof of Survival, which was bringing people back that people were lost, right? And I said, "Did you charge for it?" He went, "No." He said, "I just wanted people to know that their loved ones may not be physically here where you can see them, but they are around you. You can still think and communicate with them. And even if you can't hear them back, you can still wish them well. You can still say you love them and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, nice.
My dad passed and I hadn't seen this guy for probably a month, right? And he rang me and he said, I need to see you. So I was like, okay, where do you want me to come round? So I went around his house. I sat down. Now, I've never spoken about my dad because we had a sort of dysfunctional relationship and he didn't know that he passed. Sat down. He said, I'm going to light a candle and I'm going to, talk to you. So I was like, okay. And then he literally, I know this sounds weird, he actually became my dad. Yeah. And he was actually talking to me and saying stuff that only my dad knew and only I knew. So that's when I knew that it was fucking real. Do you know what I mean? When you hear people say stuff, you kind of go, you want to believe.
Polite.
You want to believe. No, you want to believe in it. And for me, I've always known that there was something else. I always been spiritual, because you've got to be. Everybody's got a different version of God. Everyone's got a different religion, but I think that the actual
there's
heart of it,
we're never going to be able to explain it.
No, but there's definitely something there.
Pass.
And nobody knows why we're here. Nobody knows, how it works. But that's what kind of is what I call the magic. Yeah. But when that guy did that, it took my breath away. Yeah. And I walked out and I was just like, that I couldn't have, if I was a non-believer at that point, I could never have non-believed again. Do you know what I mean? Because there's just no way that was possible.
Have you ever done a podcast?
Pardon?
Have you ever done a podcast?
Only this one.
It'd be really interesting. I could come and interview you.
Yeah. But genuinely, and the reason I'm saying this story, and people probably going, where's this going, is because you had that experience, of proof of survival.
I've had lots of, how do I put it, things go over the years. My boy, I used to train in a gym called Stan's Gym. Yeah. The man was an Hell's Angel, bit of a bad man. He died on his motorbike and he saw himself down on the bike. So he turned religious, Now, this gym was for everybody who believed in God, who had just come out of prison, who'd found their way, And he had a church at the side of the building. Yeah. And I went there because he kept asking me to come there. And I hear some of the stories, you go... It's like someone would turn up at a place that he's never been before and save someone's life. There's quite a lot of stories. Maybe another day I'll tell you all the stories. Yeah. But he came up to me and he said to me, Lee, there's something about you. You're very special. And I was trained that time. Okay. And I always remember the music was really loud and he turned it off. And I went, thank God for that. And he went, no, Lee, it wasn't God, it was me. So now, just before my boy died, he went to his gym and trained. Wow. And he looked after him. And I hadn't seen the guy for a long while. I'm not trained down this way. Yeah. He'd give my boy some T-shirts, and that was 2 days before I met him. And he'd give me the pictures with him and Stan. They were standing there. Yeah. Now, like I say, he said to me, Lee, you're very special. Now, my boy, the night he died, it was about 7:30. No, sorry, it was about 8:30. Yeah. Now, he died about 10 o'clock. Yeah. So my wife rang me up, my ex-wife, lovely. She said to me, Lee is in a coma and he's dying. So I was giving out the trays. We give trays for people to search.
Oh, yeah, no, and for anybody, you've got to put your keys.
You put your keys, your cash on there. Now, I lifted up this tray. Now, I did a lot of strategy stuff with my boy when he was younger. I'd put a little box, put soldiers all round, and he'd have to get to the box without the soldiers finding out. And he was only about 5 or 6. People used to think I was a bit nutty doing it with him, but it made him think. Now, his mum used to call him a little soldier. Yeah. So in the tray, I picked the tray up, and this was in the tray.
Wow.
I mean, why was a soldier in the tray? I mean, you can believe whatever you want about it.
No, do you know what,
I was with the medic at the time as well. So,
wow.
I mean, I'll get over with her and I hope she comes on there and says, yes, she remembers this. Because she was standing next to me and I went, and I put it in my pocket. I didn't think nothing of it. And then say, half hour later, she rings me up.
Wow. But so, you know something? That is proof of survival. That is your son saying to you, that is without a doubt. And people can laugh about it, poo-poo it, but what are the odds?
I know.
It's billions to one that some fucking crazy, little soldier pops up in your tray at work. Do you know what I mean? And there's a massive story behind it.
Mad, isn't it? Crazy.
But that to me was your son saying to you, Do you know what I mean? That was definitely 100%.
Well,
and I'm glad you've got it in your keyring because
I owe it to my boss, really. The club I was working, he dropped everything and drove me all the way to Romford.
Right.
I can't thank him enough. You know,
Yeah.
I got there just as my boy died, basically.
Right.
Now, if it wasn't for him, my boss taking me, I would have missed it.
Yeah.
You know? But he got rid of the club. He took me all the way to Romford, drove all the way to Romford.
Wow.
Took me there.
No, that's
Brilliant. Owe him big time.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing. But you know, it's I'm just you know, I'm just honoured to have you on the podcast there, and I'm glad.
Honoured to be here.
I'm glad that you shared. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
fucking hell, we'd have both started crying, didn't we?
There's nothing wrong in that.
But it is a tragedy.
He was a good boy.
Yeah.
Not just saying that because he was my boy, but
Yeah.
when we had the church thing, oh, the people that turned up, you know.
Yeah. But, you know, again, as I said, I'm just so grateful to your boy for saying, Dad, you got to do the podcast.
Let's send this
Otherwise,
on
we wouldn't be here.
Let's send this on a lighter note in a sense that you remember when you was a kid, you always sat on your dad's
Now, what we're going to
lap
do, we're going
and
to
drive.
We're gonna put over this thing. We're gonna put "Big boys don't cry."
Yeah, it's hay fever.
Yeah, no, it is. But genuinely, mate, it's fucking heartbreaking. I mean, I've got children, and anybody who's got kids, it is heartbreaking. And that's why I'm glad that you chose to share it. But there's a story behind it. You know, the soldier, the proof of survival. The fact that he asked you to come on a podcast. So that's why we're dedicating this podcast to Lee's son.
Lovely.
And, you know, I'm just glad that you come on and shared it. Yeah. But you want to end it on something light.
No,
So you want to tell me something funny
remember
now?
when you was a kid, you always sat on your dad's lap and drove the car.
Yeah.
You know, I picked him up and I sat him on my lap and drove the car and he turned it straight into the lamppost. So from then on, I said to him, when you get a car, I'm going to crash it. And he cried his eyes out whenever I said it to him. Unfortunately, he never got about. But
Yeah. Brilliant. But Lee, I've, you know, again, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I think the stuff that we talked about today was mind blowing. I think there was a lot of stuff that we missed obviously on the first one, it was really good to have you back. But I do actually feel compelled to help you with your book.
Well, I'd love to. Be good.
And who knows, we might turn it into a movie. That'd be something. That'd be something.
Me.
That'd be something. Because I'll tell you what book I read when I was, you know, in the 90s. There's a guy called Jeff Thompson. And he was from Coventry and he was a doorman. Did martial arts, and it was called Mind Your Back. Great book. And I read that, and he did like some self-defense books as well, you know, how to be street smart and how to, you know, deal with different things. But I thought he was, you know, inspiring. And I'm not sure if it ever got turned into a TV series or a film or whatever. I think he did a film. But you know, I think going through that period of time up to the present day, I mean, 4 decades of stories. I mean, you know, it's a lot of lot of
I've been
content.
mentioning quite a few of the books.
Yeah.
You know, there was a book called Diamond Geezers. A friend of mine, they interviewed him, and he gives me a nice mention. You know, so
Brilliant.
That's when I kind of got into the books, really reading them.
Yeah.
So, and Mahoney, you mentioned us in a book that he wrote about Wrecker, wasn't?
Yeah.
So you know, that's what kind of got me into reading these books. But I'll say. The Panto Dames, I weren't really into, you know, he's behind me and all this stuff. I don't know.
But Lee, thank you so much for coming on. It's
lovely.
Really
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, there you have it. Lee Chapman, Diamond Geezer. Thank you so much for tuning in. What an amazing guest, and worthy of a sequel. Maybe there be a trilogy. Who knows? But make sure you tune in next week. We've got another amazing guest. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you tell your friends about the Criminal Connection podcast. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the other side.